Chapter 7:12. Victoria shook Zanali and Evan's hands before taking her seat beside Edith. The maids quickly entered the room carrying a plate with 4 cups of hot chocolate on it. Evan felt refreshed, taking a sip of hot chocolate. Knowing the history between Wuxia and Ghost might help us stop this war before it escalates any further, Princess Victoria, said Zanali. This war only ends in only one way. Ghost will die by my hands. I will parade his head throughout my kingdom just like he did to my soldiers, Victoria sternly said. Even so, this will take so many lives. We have to try to prevent that, said Zanali. They are soldiers, Guardian Zanali. They know death is a part of their job. However, I won't let anyone discreet their bodies as Ghost, Evan sighed inside. Victoria seemed just as stubborn as Ghost. However, he couldn't blame her after learning what Ghost did to the Thusians. Although what he did was effective, it was a brutal tactic. Even he felt a chill running down his spine. So it was understandable the Thusians lost their courage to fight and ultimately lost the cities they conquered initially. If you want to prevent death, ask Ghost to surrender and answer for his crimes. He thinks he is invincible. When he steps into my kingdom, I will show him the half-immortals can be killed. Victoria's lips curved upwards. He gave us 3 days to get the people to safety. I suggest we get them off the island to Idrizel, said Zanali. Among all the kingdoms in Azer, Idrizel was the only kingdom that wasn't involved in any war. The king of Idrizel and King Maxim had an understanding. In other words, the Idrizel king pledged his loyalty to King Maxim secretly. After conquering the rest of the continent, Idrisil king planned to formally announce Idrizel would be a part of Wuxia in the future. Zanali heard rumors about the dealing between King Maxim and the king of Idrizel. So she knew the Thusians would be offered a safe haven in Idrizel. However, Victoria shook her head with a snicker. We Thusians don't run with our tails between our legs, Guardian Zanali. We will stay here and end all the threats once and for all. Zanali started to get annoyed by Victoria. Don't let your anger cloud your judgment, Princess Victoria. Even if you have a way to kill Ghost, you will lose hundreds or even thousands of people as collateral damage. Do the right thing and send them away. I don't recall asking for the Guardian Guild's help, Guardian Zanali. The only reason I am even talking to you is out of respect. We know how to take care of our people. Victoria's voice was cold. I think your people might disagree because your people asked for the Guardian Guild's help. Victoria frowned. This was a piece of new news to her. She glanced at Edith. Judging by the look on Edith's, it was obvious to Victoria that Edith had forgotten to tell her about it. Some people are more afraid and have less trust in their king. If anyone wants to leave, they are welcome to leave. So, will you agree if I announce this to the people? As a guardian, I am obliged to help people in need. Especially when they are stuck between 2 armies, said Zanali. Victoria took a small sip. She pondered what Zanali had said. Deep down, she knew sending away the people was indeed the right move. However, after Ghost destroyed many of the powerful warships, Victoria was not in the state to afford to lose a ship from her fleet. The Wuxian army needed every ship and soldier. Since Zanali was so keen on keeping the citizens safe, Victoria decided to use Zanali's soft spot to her advantage. If you want to get them to safety, bring the Guardian ships to the Golden Port. My warships will escort you, but they cannot travel with you to Idrizel, Evan sighed in relief. Finally, a good thing came out of their trip to the Azer continent. My ships are just an hour's sailing from the Golden Port. Zanali's answer surprised everyone. She brought the warships of Nagaland itself to escort the Wuxian out of Ithalan Island. Although Victoria kept what happened to her warships a secret, the Guardian had spies within the port. Hence, Zanali knew Wuxia had lost several of their warships. You came prepared, Victoria exclaimed as Zanali nodded. What about the immortals in your guild, Zanali? Are they going to stand beside and watch Let Ghost do whatever he wants? Edith opened her mouth. This time, he's attacking Wuxia. What if he decided to do the same to another kingdom? Who will stop him then? Asked Edith. To their surprise, Zanali chuckled. You do realize they are just fighting back, right? It was King Maxim who started this whole charade. We had the right reason to wage war, Guardian Zanali. Victoria creased her brows. Yeah, right. They couldn't tell whether she was being sarcastic or not. Victoria didn't get furious as she couldn't care less about what Zanali thought. Your guild will intervene soon, Zanali. Zanali turned her gaze toward Edith. She saw a glimmer in her eyes as though Edith knew something she didn't. After discussing the war for a few more minutes, they all went their separate ways. Victoria headed for the Golden Port with Zanali and Evan, while Edith went to meet Layla. They had 2 more days to get the Thusians to Adrisal. Until now, Victoria had no clue where or when Ghost would launch the next attack. This time, Victoria had ways to fight him. She needed to keep Ghost at bay until her father came out of his seclusion. The last time she heard from him, he was just a week away from reaching the half-immortal stage. With the cosmic energy running through his veins, he could kill Ghost in a few minutes. Almost a day later, Gaia saw a few cracks forming in the ice shield around Nightmare. A city blue glow appeared in Nightmare's chest. As seconds passed, the cracks grew bigger and wider. Human, I think Nightmare is coming out of his shell. Come here, Gaia said to Michael through the earpiece. When the sun rose in the morning, he left the castle to meet Saber. Today was the day he would give Michael an immortal killing weapon. Give me a minute, said Michael. The chakra gradually lost its glow. When the chakra completely faded away, Gaia stepped closer to Nightmare. Suddenly, the ice shell shattered into pieces. Gaia's hands instinctively raised her hands in front of her face to cover her face. A while later, she gently placed her hand on Nightmare. She tried to lift him in his arms. The moment Gaia touched Nightmare, she felt acute pain in her hand due to the intense coldness of his body. Nightmare slowly opened his eyes. His red pupils flickered in icy blue light. A puff of cold smoke escaped Nightmare's nostrils. In a few blinks of an eye, he transformed into his full form. His crimson-red scale had a tinge of bluishness to it. Nightmare slowly turned his head. To Gaia's surprise, Nightmare breathed frost onto the ground. The ground immediately froze to the point it shattered. Nightmare did not stop as he kept breathing frost out of his mouth. He created a tall pillar of ice. Under Gaia's gaze, Nightmare's pupils returned to their usual crimson red. As she expected, Nightmare breathed fire, melting the ice statue. Even under the scorching heat, the ice pillar took a few seconds to melt. Finally, Nightmare turned his gaze toward Gaia. His mouth formed a haughty grin. He quickly breathed frost on Gaia. A thin layer of ice formed around Gaia as Nightmare giggled. Are you cold? Gaia shattered the shell of ice with a single punch. Her hand went numb. Anyone under the core strengthening stage would freeze to death immediately. Nightmare quickly shrunk his body and jumped onto her shoulder. Ghost. Nightmare saw Michael appear in the pocket dimension. He walked toward them with a sword in his hand. It was a fairly large, wide, slightly curved blade made of bronze held by a grip wrapped in gilded, jade-green leather. Dual-edged and razor-sharp, this weapon was made for those looking for power, versatility, and general awesomeness. The blade had a thin, slightly curved crossguard, just large enough to give the blade the perfect weight balance. The crossguard had an ornamented hawk beak on each side. Any oblivious man could tell this weapon wasn't created by just any blacksmith. A massive pommel was decorated with a rare gem. No expense was spared for this gorgeous weapon. The blade itself was engraved. Intricate decoration patterns had been carefully etched into the blade, which added mystery and supposedly more power to the weapon. This sword seemed to have been used only on rare occasions. None deserved the weapon more than the greatest fighters of all. Michael put the sword in his sheath on the back and grabbed Nightmare from Gaia's shoulder. He lifted Nightmare into the air as though Nightmare was a human baby. "Oh, you're chilly," said Michael. Just like Nightmare did to Gaia, he breathed frost on Michael's face. But the dark flames appeared out of nowhere and vaporized Nightmare's frost breath. Gaia walked around Michael to inspect the sword. She unsheathed the sword from his sheath. She looked closely at the sword. She could feel the intense energy radiation from the blade. The blade had a gray shade and didn't feel like it was metal. "Can this sword withstand the heat of your dark flames?" Gaia questioned Michael. "No, it can't. But it can kill immortals and half-immortals," said Michael. Although Gaia was a little disappointed, she expected it. On the other hand, Nightmare was delighted to show Michael his new abilities, such as frost breath and creating a layer of ice on his body as a defensive measure. Michael noticed that after absorbing the ice dragon's heart, Nightmare's cultivation went from the core strengthening stage level 2 to level 6. Now that this is over, we have to get to the castle. It's time to initiate the first phase of my attack plan, said Gaia with a grin. Chapter 713. Finally, the day of Michael's first offense against Wuxia had arrived. Yagner, General Bryce, and Devarius were armed to the teeth. They waited for Gaia's plan of attack around the Oka table. Gaia herself was not in her armor because she didn't need any armor. She put her finger on the golden port. "We will attack the golden port at dawn," said Gaia. "After what Ghost did to their ships, the Thusians are being careful. So only a large-scale attack here would bring their ships out. But don't worry, we have 2,000 warships with us." Yagner's brows arched up in surprise. 2,000 warships was a vast number. With that amount of ships, they could conquer any kingdom by the sea. He wondered where they managed to get these ships. Yagner's reaction was no different than the others. They all stared at Gaia curiously. "Our vanguard ships have a long-range weapon attached. So we will lay waste on Thusians from a safe distance. This will reduce the number of casualties on our side. Who's going to deal with that dragon?" asked General Bryce. The images of that dragon flashed across his mind. It haunted his dreams. "Ghost will take care of that," they sighed in relief. Although the dragon was gigantic, terrifying, and at the fusion stage level 8, Ghost was half immortal. Of course, their battle would be frightening, but the odds were definitely against the dragon. While Ghost deals with the dragon, our ships will move forward. Since Golden Port doesn't have any space large enough to hold the Thusian army, and they would rely on naval power, it's safe to say we won't have much of a ground battle. But, Gaia raised her finger. She glanced at them for a moment before continuing. "We received numerous reports saying 2 fusion stage generals are stationed at the Golden Port. Where do they get all these fusion stage cultivators? They used to be so rare, and now, they are popping out from everywhere." Devarius expressed annoyance over the amount of fusion stage cultivators Wuxia had. One couldn't blame him. While many other kingdoms barely had one fusion stage cultivator, Wuxia had several. Only a handful of people knew how Wuxia managed to produce several fusion stage cultivators in a short amount of time, and Gaia was one of them. Still, she did not indulge these 3 with anything about the cosmic stream. Anyone who learns about the cosmic stream would try to covert it. It belonged to Michael and the Order of Death. "While our ships are destroying the Thusians, I will deal with the 2 fusion stage generals. You need any backup general?" asked Yagner. Since Gaia was leading the army, everyone began to address her as general. "I want the 3 of you to take a few men and destroy their warehouses." Yagner creased his brows. Gaia ignored their shocked gazes. This is where the Thusian stores their precious things before importing them to other kingdoms or distributing them to their own cities and villages. "What's the point of attacking this warehouse?" asked General Bryce. "To steal whatever they have stored inside," Gaia wryly smiled. "From the outside, they will see we have destroyed their warehouse, which will send them a message to fear us. But in reality, we will rob them blind." "But General, is it really necessary? Pillaging their warehouse is not an honorable thing to do." Yagner scratched his head as Gaia slammed her fist on the table. "Are you kidding me? They have pillaged your cities, your women, and everything you had. Honor doesn't get you shit. If we don't change the way how we fight, we will never defeat King Maxim, who by the way did all the despicable thing there is to take over your kingdoms." General Bryce and Devarius felt the same way as Yagner, but they didn't dare to express their thoughts on the matter. "Also, don't mistake this for a discussion. This is me giving you orders. So take your opinions and shove them up where the sun doesn't shine. Got it?" After Gaia's outburst, they shut their mouths and just nodded to her plan. "Whatever is inside, we will share it 50-50. If any of you feel like this is not an honorable thing," Gaia air quoted the word honorable, "you can let go of your share. Do you have any idea what's inside? A rough idea, perhaps?" asked Devarius, quickly trying to change her mind. I would have if you guys had better spies. Gaia rolled her eyes. After Michael's attack on the Golden Port, Victoria herself visited the place and rounded up all the spies. With Edith's lie detector array, the spies stood no chance. Let's just say we got to the warehouse successfully. What then? How do we take their things? Asked General Bryce. As though Gaia was expecting this question, she grinned. Then, with a flick of her wrist, she took out a dark gray scroll. She opened it up to reveal various intricate runes engraved on it. None of them had an idea what this would do, but they could tell it was somehow to help them steal everything inside the warehouse. It's a teleportation scroll, except it would only teleport things, said Gaia. Eladir personally designed the scroll. The downside of this teleporter scroll was it could only teleport things with minimum energy radiation. For instance, if there were sacks of grain or gold, it could teleport them. However, the teleporter would fail if there were a potion, dragon bones, or anything with high energy radiation. Gaia lied when asked if she had any idea what was inside. The truth was she knew exactly what was inside. The Thusians were storing grains, food, gold or metal ores, and crates of potions. Due to Michael's sudden attack, they were able to properly distribute the things to the cities. Since Michael was leaving for the southern continent after this war, he planned to take them with him. It was a simple enough task. So she believed the trio could complete the task without any problems. Since this will be a naval battle, we don't have much need for your armies. Take this as a gift from Ghost, General, Devarius called out for Gaia. What about Northgard? When are we planning to retake my kingdom? Good question. After we take over the Golden Port, the Thusians will be forced to take a huge chunk of their troops from the Northgard and station them in their own cities. That's when we make our move. The only reason why we didn't do it until now is the collateral damage. I won't be surprised if the Thusians used your people as hostages to escape our wrath, said Gaia. Although Michael could destroy the Thusian armies in a few hours, he chose not to because he wanted to learn the art of war through this war. After all, Michael would lead his army against powerful people in the future. He couldn't rely on his power alone. Instead, he needed his wits and experience in wars. Hence, Michael treated this as a war simulator. Devarius pondered what Gaia had said and agreed with her. After taking over the Golden Port, I will personally come to Northgard and help you chase off the Thusians. Thank you, General. Satisfied with Gaia's answer, Devarius bowed. Granted, Elia was a foul-mouthed quick-to-anger girl, but she was a damn good leader. Furthermore, her ways might be ruthless and unheard of, yet they worked. Without her, they wouldn't have taken back the cities without breaking a sweat. Now you may go to your armies, motivate them or whatnot and come meet me here in 15 minutes, Gaia dismissed them. As the light drained away, there was barely enough even for shadows. Whether one liked it or not, the darkness arrived, and everything lost its color under it. Even the stars and moon cowered behind a dense layer of cloud, giving the air a tincture associated with the world before a storm. The ocean before the Golden Port was calm. Hundreds of ships guarded the city behind them. Their silhouettes against a newly silver sky, its blue hue had almost gone until dawn. Their sails swayed in the wind, creaking into the gusting air. The usually buzzing Golden Port was empty and void of any life. Thanks to Zanala's quick and coordinated effort, they managed to transport the people to Adrisel. At that moment, only the naval army and soldiers remained in the Golden Port. Victoria issued a kill order. The soldiers had the right to kill anyone they thought suspicious after nightfall. From a bird's view, the Thusians formed a trident formation on the sea. The leading ship at the top of the center end was a man-o-war ship captained by one of General Booth's men, Hubert Mertz. General Booth had given him the command of the entire Thusian fleet. The best minds from Thusia came up with the trident formation. Furthermore, they had a kill squad waiting for Ghost if he decided to show up. This kill squad contained 70 men, all personally picked by General Booth himself. They were the best of the best, armed with an immortal killing spear. General Hubert Mertz was an old man with long white hair and a beard. He was armed to the teeth with crimson-red armor. Every inch of his armor had a rune engraved in it. They radiated a dim glow under the dark sky. His calm eyes swept across the ocean. He let the soothing sound of the waves calm his mind and soul. The soldiers behind him weren't nervous as they were all war veterans. Yet, even the threat of a half-immortal couldn't shake their resolve. They all waited for the enemy ships to appear. The last time, the enemies caught them off guard by suddenly appearing out of nowhere. This time, they were prepared. The moment the space distorts, the arrays in the sky would alert all the ships of the enemy's presence. Edith herself designed all these arrays to give them an edge against Ghost and his army. General Hubert looked over his shoulder and saw his second-in-command, Albert Mertz, his grandson, walking toward him. Chapter 714. Albert Mertz was a hot-blooded young man in his youth. He was one of the men who received the gift of cosmic energy thanks to his undying loyalty toward King Maxim Barnes. As a result, he became a soul-refining stage cultivator. With his cultivation level and years of training from his grandfather, he climbed up the ranks in the army and became the second-in-command to his grandfather himself. The ocean breeze disturbed Albert's wavy silver hair. He joined his grandfather on the upper deck, near the rudder. "Everything seems to be calm," said Albert. "For now," said Hubert. "Power always comes with a cost, Albert." Hubert was taken aback by surprise. For some reason, Albert couldn't see the absolute resolve to win in his grandfather's eyes. "General, what do you mean by that?" asked Albert. Hubert sighed. He was one of the first people who went to the cosmic stream in person with King Maxim Barnes. While everyone praised King Maxim for acquiring such a power source, Hubert was the only one worried about the consequences of having such a power source. Although Hubert did not know how King Maxim managed to acquire the cosmic stream, he felt death around it. He lived and faced enough battles to know the smell of blood even though the place was cleaned up well. Deep down, Hubert felt this was the consequence he was worried about. "I had many disciples in my life, Albert, and I've told this to each and every one, including our king. Never lust for power and revenge," Albert said in a gentle tone. "Grandpa," Albert stepped closer to Hubert. "What's going on?" "You talk like we're going to lose this battle," Albert whispered. "We are just mere pawns in a larger game we don't and can't see. Our orders are clear, we will fight this battle to win. But in case," Hubert turned around. He looked his grandson in the eyes and smiled. "This turned out to be my last battle. I want you to leave all this fighting," Albert creased his brows. He was completely stunned by his grandfather's words. "Do not seek revenge. If I die, let me die with honor. Do not sully my death seeking revenge against the one who bested me." Hubert put his hand on Albert's shoulder. He had a peaceful moment with his grandson. His life flashed across his eyes. He recalled every happy moment in his life, and none of those moments included battlefields or wars. He had won countless battles, but nothing made him happier than holding his newborn son or his grandson. "Grandpa, we are about to head into a full-scale war. Everyone wants you to be the general who won battles against all odds. There will always be a war to win, Albert. You are my greatest disciple, not King Maxim and not General Booth. You must be better. Better than me, better than your father, and better than everyone." Albert smiled and felt proud of his grandfather's words. The two of them only had each other. All the other Mertz gave their lives to the betterment of Thusia. Albert was the last Mertz of the long, proud family of Mertz. Hubert wanted his grandson to carry on the legacy of Mertz. "I will, Grandpa. But don't talk like this. We will win this war and send those bastards to hell. Ghost won't survive our death squad." Hubert nodded. Although he didn't believe mortals could defeat a half-immortal, especially a powerful one like Ghost, he didn't want his grandson to lose morale. "But heed my words one last time, Albert. If I fall today, don't fall in my footsteps," said Hubert with a heavy heart. Albert took a deep breath. "I won't be the last Mertz, Grandpa. I promise to honor your words." Satisfied with Albert's answer, Hubert patted him on the back before turning his gaze back to the ocean. As Hubert was staring at the calm sea, something suddenly appeared on the horizon. "They are here," Albert mumbled under his breath. He quickly took the spyglass dangling on his waist. He used it to take a closer look at the horizon. As he expected, it was a war frigate. It almost perfectly blended with the darkness. He had never seen a ship completely painted black. Even the sails were as black as midnight. Albert saw silhouettes of several people on the deck. One by one, many warships appeared behind this black ship. A thunderous horn echoed through the air, alerting the soldiers of the enemies. "Take position." General Hubert's domineering voice resonated through the air as loud as the sound created by the array itself. His previously worried eyes turned predatory. "The moment they come into the firing range, unlead everything you have on them," ordered Albert. The Wuxian ships were built with longer and wider fire ranges than any other ships in this world. Best blacksmiths, runemasters, and engineers worked day and night to strengthen their firepower. Thus, the Thusians could destroy their foes from out of the hostile ship's fire range. None of the kingdoms in Azer survived the assault of the Wuxian naval army. To attack the Wuxian ships, the hostile ships had to sail forward. The trident formation was to flank them from left and right, while the center point was to destroy them head-on. According to the strategists of Thusia, it was a powerful lethal formation. To their shock, the black ship or the others did not even drop its sails. Instead, they just hovered over the water, doing nothing. "Are they expecting us to make the first move?" asked Albert. "No," Hubert shook his head. Since he was at the fusion stage, he was able to see the hostile crews running around the upper deck, carrying wooden crates despite the snow affecting everyone's sight. Hubert noticed they were unloading the crates near the front of the black ship. But to his knowledge, there were no cannons in the front, and even if there were, they wouldn't be able to shoot more than 2 or 3 cannonballs. But suddenly, a red spotlight fell on a ship far right from Hubert's. They were bewildered by the spotlight. When Albert looked closer at the black ship, he noticed a red light shooting toward the sky. Soon, they heard a sound resembling a rumbling thunderclap. At the same time, Albert's sparks of fire and smoke emerged from the black ship. He followed the sparks of fire until they flew right above the ship with a red spotlight on. In mere seconds, countless fireballs rained down upon the ship like tiny meteors. Wood and body parts flew out of the ship as the fireballs destroyed everything they touched. It was as though countless cannons fired cannonballs from directly above. They had never seen such an attack before. The screams of the soldiers filled the air, along with the smell of gunpowder, burning flesh, and crackling wood. Finally, under their shocked gazes, the ships sank into the sea. When several red spotlights fell on their ships, the soldiers felt a chill running down their spines. "General, your orders!" Albert shouted. "Set sail. Avoid the spotlights at all costs." Hubert snapped out of his shock and quickly issued his orders. The crews frantically run around the upper deck, setting sail forward. But once again, the sound of thunderclaps resonated through the air. This time, the dark sky lit up with fireballs. Hundreds of mortar shells glistened like stars in the sky. When they landed on their targets, ships and mortal bodies exploded. The red spotlights targeted the ships with weak soldiers. Although many soldiers cast defense spells around the ship, the mortal shells destroyed their shields as though it was nothing. The Thusians were thrown into chaos. However, General Hubert managed to lead the ships closer to the hostile ones. Once they were in the firing range, they could finally return the favor by bombarding them. "Soul refiners!" Hubert shouted. "You're clear to fly and engage the enemy crews. Destroy their red weapon." His order echoed through the air. A couple of soldiers on his ship shot toward the sky. They soared through the sky, heading to the hostile ships. As nature itself feared their battle, the clouds began to swirl, indicating an imminent storm. The howling wind carried a sense of threat as flashes of lightning struck across the sky. Every time lightning flashed, they saw the dark clouds swirling in the sky as though it was opening a giant portal to the higher realms. The soul refining stage warriors disappeared into the dark clouds. The Thusians could differentiate between the sound of natural thunder and the sound of mortar firing. The soldiers prayed that the red lights would not fall on them. But the gods did not answer their prayers. Compared to the cannons, the mortals had faster reload times. Hence, they rained death upon the Thusians before the soul refiners could get close to the pirate ships. "What is that thing?" Albert shouted. He cast a golden shield around him and his grandfather. Still, they couldn't help but be afraid of the red lights. "They are raining death upon our men." Another soldier shouted. "Don't lose hope. Our men will destroy their weapons." Albert shouted. He really hoped the soul refiners could end the threat before they lost more ships. Everywhere he looked, he saw fire and smoke. They were slowly moving closer to the hostile ships. Suddenly, a bear looked at the sky as he sensed a powerful presence. He heard a powerful roar resonate through the air. At that same time, a lightning struck across the sea, illuminating a dragon's shadow above the clouds. "She is here," Hubert mumbled under his breath. "It's that damn dragon." Albert growled. The soldiers stationed at the Golden Port a few days ago couldn't forget the terrifying roar of the dragon. A mere shadow of it was enough to terrify them. "Fire the signal." Hubert amplified his voice with celestial energy. Despite the exploding ships and thunderclaps, everyone was able to hear his words loud and clear. Albert did not waste any second. With a flick of his wrist, he conjured a bright blue orb of light. He raised his hand above his head, firing the orb of light into the sky. As soon as the blue light hit the sky, another roar echoed through the air. Chapter 7:15. The Thusians saw the royal dragon in the sky. It casts a shadow dark and big enough to turn the area darker. Every flap of its wings put out the fire on the sea. It roared before flying into the clouds to fight the hostile dragon. On top of Nightmare, Gaia fought the soul refiners sent by Hubert. She displayed her full mastery over the bow and arrow. Despite the stormy wind and altitude, each and every arrow found its target. She locked her gaze with a soul refiner covered in flames. He flew toward Big Bertha like a rocket. As soon as Nightmare noticed him, he flapped his wings. The soul refiner looked over his shoulder to see Nightmare soaring toward him. He immediately waved his hand as two fiery wings appeared on his back. Gaia knocked an arrow. She was about to release the golden arrow when she heard the royal dragon's roar. "We have to end them all quick," said Gaia. Nightmare nodded. He quickly closed his wings, willing the arch-energy in his body to increase his speed. "Slow him down," said Nightmare. Without delaying a second, Gaia fired an arrow. The arrow soared through the air in a curved arc until it penetrated the soul refiner's leg. "Arg!" he shouted in pain. The first energy coursing through her veins was several times more powerful than the celestial energy. It went through the fire covering the soul refiner and penetrated his legs. He stumbled in the air, losing his balance. Before he could fight the pain and flap his fiery wings, Nightmare opened his mouth. Gaia immediately felt her feet numb due to the sudden chill in Nightmare's body. Nightmare's throat glowed from within in an icy blue color. Suddenly, a stream of frost shot out toward the soul refiner. He looked over his shoulder, but it was too late. The frost hit him and formed a thin layer of ice on his skin. Most of the frost energy was vaporized by the fire. Nonetheless, the fire couldn't put out the frost completely. Gaia used this opportunity to fire several golden arrows one after another. The man cried in midair as blood splattered out. At that time, Nightmare caught up with him. As the man was bleeding, Gaia leaped onto him from Nightmare's back with the bow in her hand. In midair, she poured all her energy into the next arrow. The arrow glowed brighter to the point that the soul refiner closed his eyes when he turned around. Gaia let go of the arrow as it soared toward him. Golden sparkles flew around the arrow. One could hear a buzzing sound resonating from the arrow. The soul refiner raised his hand to block the arrow instinctively. However, it penetrated his hand and went straight through his head. The flames faded away from his body before his lifeless corpse fell from the sky. Gaia was about to fly back to Nightmare when she saw the shadowy silhouette of the royal dragon under the clouds. "Look out!" Gaia shouted at Nightmare. Nightmare immediately sensed a danger. His instincts screamed at him to fly above quickly. "Always listen to your gut. It will save your life every time," Ghost's words sounded in Nightmare's mind. Without a second thought, Nightmare flapped his wings using all his might. The force of his flap pushed his body several meters higher in the sky in a blink of an eye. As he flew higher in the sky, he saw the royal dragon's wide jaw snap into the air where he was a few seconds ago. If Gaia hadn't warned him and he hadn't listened to his gut feeling, he would have stuck in the royal dragon's mouth. After failing to catch Nightmare, the royal dragon again flew into the clouds. It used the clouds as cover. Only the flashes of lightning revealed the dragon's shadow in the clouds. "That fucking lizard looks bigger than the last time," Gaia growled the moment she landed on Nightmare's body. "How many soul refiners left?" asked Nightmare. 3 or 4. "I don't think we can catch them on time." "It's time to bring in the backup," said Gaia. "Azazel, you're up. Forgive my impatience, my lady." "I am here already," Gaia heard Azazel's voice in her head. She couldn't help sensing a tinge of excitement in his voice. "Ah!" A scream filled with agonizing pain echoed through the air. Due to the heavy snowfall and the storm clouds, even Nightmare and Gaia couldn't see everything clearly. Fortunately, a light flashed across the sky, illuminating everything in the sky. Gaia saw Azazel holding 2 soul refiners by their necks for a split second. Since Azazel was soul-bound to Michael, his power was directly dependent on Michael. Simply put, Azazel's power grew with Michael's power. Hence, when Michael entered his godhood, breaking through to the half-immortal stage, Azazel became a fusion stage level 3 cultivator. His demon powers enabled him to mimic Michael's spells. Although they weren't as powerful as the source, the soul refiners stood no chance against those spells. Azazel used Ignitia to break their shields and ended their lives with Wind Blast or Ring of Fire. If Azazel didn't have wings on his back, Nightmare would have mistaken him for Ghost. Azazel traveled through the clouds using Lightning Dash. Hence, Gaia was able to see streaks of golden bolts of lightning in the sky. Back on the ocean, Hubert sailed forward against the storm. Almost a quarter of the fleet was decimated by the mortar shells. If that wasn't bad enough, the wind was also against them. As a result, their ships couldn't move as fast as he had hoped. Standing beside Hubert, Albert noticed several bodies falling down from the sky. The sky above them lit up with various colors like gold, violet, icy blue, and jade green. But they didn't terrify the soldiers as the red spotlight. "Few more minutes, and they'll be in our firing range." Out of the blue, Nightmare dived down through the clouds. The Thusians on Hubert's ship were almost thrown off balance by Nightmare's speed. He was so close that his body touched the masts. Albert ordered, fearing the dragon might breathe fire upon them. In stark contrast, they saw the dragon breathing frost and forming an ice wall on the ocean. "Shatter the walls!" Hubert shouted as the soldiers began to cast spells. Nightmare's frost almost froze the sea. He took a complete 180 turn to return toward the Thusian ships. This time, Nightmare breathed frost on the ships. The stream of icy blue frost several ships in a line. The soldiers were turned into ice statues as well as their ships. "Look over there!" Hubert heard Albert shout. He jerked his head to the side to see a girl slaughtering the crews on a ship next to them. She moved through the upper deck like a blowing wind. The soldiers couldn't even track her movements. Hubert saw her stab the soldiers with the golden arrow in her hand. "Fire!" Albert ordered the ships. The Thusians immediately bombarded the ship Gaia was on with all they got. However, they were too late. Gaia leaped into the air. At that same time, Nightmare came flying to her. She landed on his back and disappeared into the clouds. "Where is the royal dragon?" Albert shouted. His eyes turned bloodshot with fury. They were getting slaughtered left and right. Albert thought the Thusian naval army was undefeatable, and they had all the state-of-the-art weapons. Today, he was proven wrong. Ghost and his army bested their strategy, their formation, and everything with overwhelming power. They rained death and destruction from above. "Someone else is there." Hubert saw a silhouette of a man with wings in the clouds fighting the royal dragon. Although the man's figure looked tiny and almost unnoticeable compared to the royal dragon, Hubert's sight was keen. That was no mistake. Hubert saw him. A man with wings. "General, they are sailing away." Another soldier's shout snapped Albert out of his shock. He quickly used his spyglass to glance at the hostile ships. His vision was completely blurred because of the storm and the heavy snowfall. Still, he could vaguely see the hostile ships sailing away from them. "They are trying to get away from our firing range," Albert shouted. The only way to fight back was to fire back. Except, they could do that only if the hostile ships were in their firing range. Albert panicked. As long as the hostile ships were out of their firing range, they would rain down mortar shells and decimate their ships from a distance. "Albert!" Hubert had to shout despite the short distance between him and his grandson. The howling wind made communicating without amplifying his voice with arch energy a pain. "General!" Albert came running to Hubert. "I am going to give you the command and deal with those ships myself." "General, let me come with you." Albert raised his voice. "No," Hubert shook his head. "I need you to lead our army here." "No, this is an order, soldier." Hubert shook Albert by his shoulder. After hearing Hubert's last words, Albert couldn't argue with him anymore. "Yes, General." Albert slammed his chest with his fist, saluting Hubert. "Second in command Albert will be in charge while I am away. Heed his commands as they were mine." The Thusians were taken aback by surprise. But the veterans knew it was the right move. If Hubert had gone to the other side and destroyed the long-range cannons, they might have a chance to turn the tides of this battle. "Yes, General!" The Thusians shouted in unison. Hubert threw a last glance at Albert before shooting toward the sky. In a few seconds, he disappeared into the clouds. As much as Albert wanted to follow his grandfather, he had responsibilities. As a proud Mertz, he put duty before family. "Full sail!" Albert raised his voice. "Give me everything you have. I want those bastards in our range yesterday." Albert's orders echoed through the air. As they were sailing forward, streaks of lightning flashed across the sky. They almost turned the night into a day for a split second. Then, violent roars of the dragons overshadowed the rumbling thunder. At that moment, for some strange reason, Albert felt like he was being stared at by a god from above. Chapter 7:16 Above the clouds, Hubert flew like an arrow shot out from a bow. He cut through the clouds against the snow and the howling wind. A tornado formed right between the Wuxian army and their foes. This tornado brought down the wrath of gods as streaks of lightning struck down without a break. As he was flying forward, he saw the royal dragon in the distance. It was battling with the man with wings. Steam of violet flames shot out of the dragon's mouth. Hubert searched for the frost-breathing dragon and the girl. But they were nowhere to be found. His neck hair suddenly stood up as though there was some danger nearby. He quickly swayed his body before dashing away to the side. Only then did he realize that he had missed a golden arrow to the head by an inch. He turned around to fight the frost-breathing dragon and the girl. Hubert had a feeling this girl might be as strong as him or stronger. Furthermore, she was with a dragon which gave her an overwhelming advantage. But to his surprise, the girl jumped off the dragon. The two of them stared at each other as the dragon flew into the clouds, disappearing from Hubert's sight. Hubert Mertz, General of the Wuxian Naval Army. Mentor to Booth and King Maxim himself. "You seem to know me," said Hubert. "It's my duty as a general to know my foes." Hubert clenched his fist. He recalled everything he had read in the reports from Zilon and Suvan. She paraded the corpses of the fallen Wuxian soldiers to inflict fear. Such a brutal tactic for a gentle-looking girl. "Order your men to stand down. We can avoid all this death and bloodshed," said Gaia. She looked down on the sea to see Wuxian ships sinking to the bottom of the ocean. The mortars were as powerful as Michael had explained. Seeing them in a real battle showed Gaia why Ghost and Eladir spent such a long time creating this weapon. Even if the Thusians had brought airships, those would have fallen down like dead flies. "You don't look like you're into this war, old man. To me, you look tired, want to retire and live somewhere peacefully. You know King Maxim started this war, and you know he wouldn't give you a choice if you were his foe." "Young lady," Hubert smiled. "You're right. I do want to do all those things. But I am a soldier, and it's a soldier's duty to follow his order. Now, my order is to win this battle. So that's what I am going to do, or I'll die trying," Gaia sighed. You're just another good man who's willing to die for a sick fuck. The bow and arrow materialized in Gaia's hands. Hubert was about to cast a spell when he felt a sting in his neck. He hissed, slapping the back of his neck. A drop of blood was on his palm. "What did you do?" asked Hubert. "There is no time, General Hubert. Your men are waiting for you to destroy their foes." "What do you guys call our mortars anyways?" Gaia chuckled. "You know, I would have loved a good battle, but he has other plans." Hubert's vision blurred. He could feel the strength in his body disappearing. "You are a great general and one of the most powerful people in the world. But to us, to him, you're not special in any way. Just another man to be killed," said Gaia. Hubert's breathing became heavy. Each breath took a toll on his body. Furthermore, he slowly lost the connection with his celestial and arch energy in his body. "In a different timeline, your story would have been longer." Gaia slowly raised her bow. Hubert wanted to cast a spell to protect himself. However, he simply couldn't feel any energy. He was able to stay afloat in the air barely. "Your story ends here," Gaia said. She was about to release the golden arrow when Hubert looked her in the eyes and said, "As a general to general, please spare my grandson's life." Hubert realized this was his end. He never thought he would die like this without even putting up a fight. As a general, he utterly failed and let down his men. In his last moments of life, the most he could do was plead for his grandson's life. "You had a chance. Now it's gone." Gaia released the arrow. Hubert felt a sharp pain in his chest. When he looked down, he saw an arrow sticking into his chest. He gritted his teeth, trying to fight the pain. But the very next moment, everything turned dark. The last thing he saw was another golden arrow soaring toward him. Gaia didn't feel a bit of pity for Hubert. These generals supported King Maxim in every step. In a way, they were responsible for what happened to Michael's sanctuary. She watched Hubert's body fall down from the sky. Finding his body through all the ship parts floating on the ocean would be near impossible. Far away from Gaia, Nightmare kept breathing frost onto the sea, forming a wall to slow down the Thusians. The royal dragon was occupied with Azazel in a fierce battle. "It's time," Nightmare heard Azazel's voice in his head. With a flap of his wings, Nightmare gained enough altitude to disappear into the clouds. On his way, Gaia landed back on him. "Is it done?" asked Nightmare. "It's done," Gaia nodded. The two of them flew toward Azazel and the royal dragon. The closer they got to them, the hotter the air became. The heat radiating from the royal dragon's body melted the snowflakes. As a result, Gaia and Nightmare got drenched by a heavy downpour. The royal dragon flew left and right, trying to bite Azazel. Violet flames shot out of its mouth to burn down Azazel. Gaia could tell the dragon and Azazel were at a stalemate. Suppose the royal dragon brought back up, this battle would have gone in a different way. Yet the royal dragon was too proud to fight along with anyone else. Its pride would be its downfall. While the sea was filled with dead bodies, burning ships, and a freaking tornado, a group of soldiers gathered in one of the buildings in the Golden Port. They watched their men getting slaughtered left and right without lifting a finger. General Franklin witnessed the death and destruction rained upon the Thusian army from above. Unlike General Hubert, General Franklin was young. None would tell he was older than 50 or 55. He was bald, masculine, and taller than an average human. The noticeable thing about Franklin was his metal arm. He lost his right arm, saving King Maxim from an assassination attempt. King Maxim showed his gratitude by tasking his best engineers to build this metal arm instead of finding a 6-star healer to help Franklin grow a new arm. To be honest, Franklin liked this new arm of his. Although he wanted to fight alongside the Thusian naval army, he had his orders. No matter what, they were ordered to stay hidden until Ghost showed up. When he did, he and his men had to engage him and kill him with the immortal killing spear. All of his men wore the same dark robes to blend in with the dark sky. His unit consisted of 50 men. They were all plucked from the Thusian Royal Academy, the best of the best. These youngsters were dying to prove themselves. If General Booth had given them and ordered him to kill Ghost, a half-immortal, Franklin would have laughed his ass off. But it wasn't the case. General Booth gave these men an immortal killing weapon and, more importantly, a plan that could work. None of them uttered a word despite all the death and destruction. They were trained to speak when they were spoken to. Franklin and his men had no expressions on their faces. To them, all that mattered was Ghost and his death. Meanwhile, Gaia and Nightmare finally joined Azazel. The moment the royal dragon saw Nightmare, its eyes turned predatory. It bore its teeth and roared. His roar was filled with vengeance. Azazel quickly jumped onto Nightmare's back beside Gaia. The royal dragon flapped its wings as it started to chase after Nightmare. But instead of flying forward, Nightmare flew upwards. The royal dragon's massive body turned into a colossal disadvantage as gravity pulled the royal dragon down more than it pulled down Nightmare. Gaia turned around, firing arrow after arrow at the royal dragon. On the other hand, Azazel used the wind blast to hit the dragon before it could use the dragon's breath. Nightmare flew higher and higher against the wind. Breathing became difficult for both Nightmare and Gaia. Nightmare flew higher to the point they no longer saw any storm or snowfall. The royal dragon opened its mouth wide to sink its teeth into Nightmare. Gaia held onto the spikes on Nightmare's spine to avoid losing her balance. "Now would be a good time," Gaia shouted, looking at the violet glow inside the royal dragon's mouth. She felt the temperature rising by several degrees. It was evident the royal dragon was about to use its dragon breath. She could swear she saw the royal dragon grin devilishly. Nightmare was exhausted. Every flap of his wing took a great effort. Finally, Nightmare lost his strength. He closed his eyes as the royal dragon opened its mouth as wide as it could. Anyone in this situation would panic or shout, but not Gaia. A grin emerged on her face. When Nightmare was about to fall down, a bolt of lightning struck the royal dragon from above. The lightning bolt struck straight into its wide-open mouth. However, it was not just a lightning bolt. Instead, it was Ghost who flew straight into the dragon's mouth using the lightning dash. The moment Michael went into the royal dragon's mouth, the dragon's predatory eyes glistened with pain. The smell of burning flesh overwhelmed their senses. Because Michael covered himself with the dark flames. Chapter 717. The royal dragon roared in pain. Michael traveled into the dragon's body, burning everything in his path. Just imagining Michael inside the dragon made Gaia feel the urge to throw up. She wouldn't have done that under any circumstance. The royal dragon dived down. Blood spurted out from its belly. There was nothing the royal dragon could do to stop Michael. The royal dragon tried to spit out Michael, but only blood and a blob of saliva shot out of its mouth. That fucking lizard. Gaia noticed the royal dragon flying toward the pirate ships. She leaped off from Nightmare's back as she flew toward the royal dragon. She caught up with the dragon in a few blinks of an eye. The dragon glanced at Gaia from the corner of its eyes. It roared. Gaia grabbed the side of the dragon's face, ignoring the dragon's roar. Gaia used every bit of her strength to force the dragon to turn around. If the royal dragon landed on their ships, its massive body would crush several ships, including Big Bertha. "Ghost, if you hear me, this bastard is heading for our ships." "Kill it faster," said Gaia. As though Michael had heard her words, the dragon roared in agony. Gaia punched the dragon as she put all her strength into pushing the dragon to the other side. Nightmare dived down through the clouds, hitting the royal dragon like a freight train. He bit the royal dragon's wings, almost tearing it off. On the other hand, Azazel also joined Gaia. It took all the strength in their bodies to finally turn around the dragon. Considering they were close to the dragon, they were able to hear a thumping sound coming from within the dragon. The royal dragon slowly lost its strength. Its inside was burnt to jelly by the dark flames. The light of life slowly faded away from its eyes. "Victoria!" To their shock, the dragon roared Victoria's name. For the first time, they heard the royal dragon speak. The moment the dragon roared, a fist came out of the dragon's skull. Hot blood splattered on Gaia's face. It felt almost like hot lava. The dragon let out a final roar before starting to fall down. Gaia flew down and held the dragon's body on her shoulder. Veins popped up on her skin as she gritted. Every muscle in her body tensed up, carrying the massive dragon. Azazel and Nightmare did not let Gaia share the weight alone. They joined her as Azazel took the dragon's head and Nightmare lifted its lower belly. The three of them slowly turned around and headed toward the Thusian ships. Albert led the Thusians toward the pirate ships. He was able to navigate the ship around the tornado. The storm was a blessing disguised as a curse. Thanks to the storm, the mortar shells missed their target due to the heavy wind. Albert prayed to his grandfather to destroy the mortars. However, deep down he knew something was amiss. If his grandfather had succeeded, the red spotlights would have disappeared. Instead, he saw the royal dragon flying through the storm clouds. For a moment, Albert and the crew felt relieved. But their relief was short-lived. He felt something was wrong. When he looked closely at the royal dragon, he saw no movement in the dragon's body. It didn't flap its wings a single time. Albert quickly grabbed the rails in one hand to balance himself and used his spyglass to see another dragon right under the royal dragon. He moved his spyglass and saw a girl and a man with wings carrying the royal dragon. His hands automatically moved the spyglass toward the dragon's eyes. Only then did he notice the lack of light of life in its eyes. He realized it was dead. Albert's heart skipped a beat. "They are going to drop the dragon on us," he shouted. "Abandon ship." Albert saw no other options. Even if they cast their most powerful spells, it would be impossible to destroy the royal dragon's body into pieces. Once it hit the ship, there was no surviving the explosion. Hence, Albert decided to abandon the ship. At least his men had a better chance of flying away. As Albert predicted, the royal dragon's colossal body fell on them with enough force to shake the entire sea. At least 20 to 30 ships were blasted off from the sea by force. Countless ships sunk under the weight of the royal dragon. The moment the dragon hit the ocean, the collision force resulted in massive tsunami waves. The waves completely overthrew the frontline ships and destroyed their formation. It was the final nail in their coffin. Albert barely managed to escape the blast. He hovered in the air with a heavy heart, looking at his ship sinking into the ocean. He clenched his fist. They were utterly defeated. Suddenly, a bolt of golden lightning struck the royal dragon. His hands instinctively covered his eyes. The flash was too bright. When he moved his hands to the side, he saw a figure slowly emerging from the lifeless corpse of the royal dragon. He was completely covered in blood. But the heavy downpour washed off the blood from his body, revealing his identity. "Ghost," Albert mumbled. Albert's nail plunged into his palm. He couldn't keep his anger in control when he saw Ghost smiling at all the death and destruction. The burning ships almost turned the dark night brighter. Michael had a glass bottle in his hand. It contained the blood of the royal dragon. Thanks to Gaia and Nightmare killing the soul refiners, Michael was able to reach the half-immortal stage level 6 when he slew the royal dragon. He summoned the system to take a look at his status window. Host, Michael Cultivation level, half-immortal level 6 godhood, fledgling god experience points, 0/5, 000, 000 badass points, 800, 000 skills and spells. Wind Blast LVL 6 Ultimate Form Level 1 Eyes of Doom, LVL 5 Ultimate Form Level 1 Responsive Shield, LVL 8 Environment Scanning, LVL 8 Ignitia, LVL 8 Ultimate Form Level 1 Silenes, LVL 1 Lightning Dash, LVL 6 Ultimate Form Level 1 Energy Devour, LVL 5 Soul Eater, LVL 5 Death Range, LVL 3 Eyes of Darkness, Normal. Can sense the cultivation level of Others. Eyes of Darkness, Lucifer. Can sense the cultivation level of Others. Can see through illusions. Cloud of Darkness, Lucifer. Weak-willed enemies will lose their courage completely and surrender. Death range will be 50% more powerful, and if activated in darkness, the host's cultivation level will be boosted 4 levels up regardless of the stage barrier. Wordless Spellcaster, Lucifer. In full Lucifer form, the host just has to think of the spell to cast it. Techniques: Swords of Destiny, 98% Mastery. Ring of Fire, 94% Mastery. Serpent Maga, 98% Mastery. Occupation: the Guardian of Sunrise. Sect Lord Lucifer of the Abyssal. The Dark Lord. Status: Healthy goals. Control the world. Rebuild the order of death. Utility function. Banker LVL 5. Ratio 1000 gold coins. 40 badass points. Runic teleportation. X-ray vision. Also integrated with Eyes of Darkness. Wealth. 15 million gold. Special trait. 5-star alchemist. 5-star inventor. Subordinates. Gaia, warrior, loyalty. Level 100%. Raylene, 5-star chef, loyalty level 99%. Arya, assassin, loyalty level 89%. Maxine, warrior, loyalty level 98%. Tiberius, warrior, loyalty level 75%. Sadie, loyalty level 60%. Ricky, loyalty level 98%. Titus, loyalty level 70%. Optimus, loyalty level 70%. Big Bertha crew, pirates, loyalty level 93%. Base of operation, Sunrise sect. The Abyssal. The Crypt Familiars. Nightmare, forest dragon, Vidora, 3-headed hydra. Elemental manipulation. Wind, 20% mastery. Fire, 20% mastery. Lightning, 30%. Mastery. Darkness, 35%. Michael was neither happy nor disappointed at himself. All he felt was the urge to be stronger. The destruction of Thusian's ships made him happier than seeing his status window. He clenched his fist. He wanted to kill the rest of the Thusians. As soon as he exited the system, he sensed several people rushing toward him from all directions. "Let me take care of them," Michael heard Gaia's voice. But he raised his hand, wordlessly telling her to stand down. "Take care of the soldiers. Destroy half of their ships, and I will take over the rest," Gaia finished Michael's words. The soldiers flew straight toward him. All wore identical clothes. They covered their heads with dark cloaks. Michael wondered what they were trying to achieve by heading straight toward him. The strongest one among them was a fusion stage level 4 cultivator. Even if they were all fusion stage cultivators, they would have no choice. The majority of the soldiers were at the core formation stage. Michael was confused. Still, Michael did not underestimate them. He flew away from the battlefield into the dark clouds. He quickly cast the lightning dash to increase his speed. The distance between Michael and the soldiers grew quickly. Michael did not slow until he flew straight into the tornado itself. By doing this, Michael tested the soldiers' resolve to kill him. In other words, Michael wanted to see how badly they wanted him dead. To Michael's surprise, the soldiers did not slow down, not even a bit. Michael slowly disappeared into the dark tornado. The soldiers finally slowed down a bit. They couldn't locate Michael. "Use the tracking scroll," Franklin, the leader of the elite death squad, ordered his men. One of them quickly took out a glowing silver parchment. A single rune radiated a bright silvery light. The soldier quickly tore it in half as the glowing rune appeared in the air above them. In the center of the tornado, Michael saw a thin yet bright layer of light appear on him. The soldiers immediately turned their heads toward Michael's direction as though they had seen him through the tornado. "You guys never learn," Franklin heard Ghost's words echo through the air. "But thanks for making me stronger," Franklin heard Ghost laugh. Franklin felt his neck hair stand up. Before he could react, hundreds of golden lightning bolts struck from above. He immediately took out another scroll, tore it, and teleported away. Those who managed to react in time escaped. The others just fell from the sky with one or more holes in their bodies. "Teleportation won't save you," said Ghost. "Raven maneuver," Franklin shouted. Michael saw the remaining soldiers flying in some kind of formation. They all raised their hands as their bodies multiply in number. These illusions were meant to disorient Michael. This time, Michael felt his neck hair stand up. He immediately dashed away, missing the golden spear to his heart by a few inches. The golden spear disappeared before Michael could take a closer look. Finally, Michael realized their plan. "An immortal killing weapon," Michael mumbled under his breath. He could tell their plan was to confuse Michael, hide the spear, and stab him with it when he least expected. The plan would have worked if Michael had not upgraded his environmental scanning. Chapter 7:18. Michael cracked his neck as the death squad surrounded him. The soldiers quickly cast various spells to protect themselves from him. They tore some scrolls to boost their strengths. Although Michael did not know what these scrolls would do, He could tell they were fully prepared to face him. Furthermore, the soldiers hid the golden spear. Michael scanned them all with his X-ray vision, yet he was unable to see who was holding the spear. It seemed to him they had used some powerful runes to hide the weapon from his sight. Panther formation. Michael saw the fusion stage warrior shout. Following his order, the soldiers took out a yellowish pill and tossed it into their mouths. Michael was surprised by the energy radiation from the pill. They were all at least 96% pure pills, which meant they were concocted by a 6-star alchemist. Michael looked at the soldiers curiously to see what the pill could do. They soon quenched Michael's thirst for curiosity by dashing toward Michael faster than a typical core formation warrior's abilities. Granted, they were now here close to Michael's speed, but they were fast enough to make a soul refiner lose their sight. To Michael's surprise, a golden spear appeared in everyone's hand. Not that Michael had no way of finding out the real spear, he just wanted to try something else. Michael hovered in the air without moving an inch. He didn't even cast a spell. The soldiers didn't hesitate to strike Michael. Instead, they dashed at him with the ferocity of a beast and swung the golden spears left and right. The spear cut through Michael's clothes. Still, none of the spear strikes hurt his skin. After being tempered by the lightning strikes when he crossed the heavenly tribulation, his body became tough as metal. Normal weapons such as these golden spears stood no chance of hurting him, unlike the real golden spear. On the other hand, Gaia, Nightmare, and Azazel slaughtered the soldiers on the sea. The more people they killed, the more experience points Michael earned. Azazel especially turned into a killing machine. He didn't even use any spells but killed them with his bare hands. At that moment, Gaia landed on a frigate. Nightmare breathed frost around the ship, freezing the water to prevent the ship from moving. The strongest soldier on the deck was a core formation warrior. He was busy turning the rudder until Gaia sent an arrow straight through his head. His crew panicked. Several chakras appeared around Gaia as the remaining soldiers began to cast spells. However, Azazel landed directly on the center of the deck. He flapped his wings, sending a powerful gust of wind. Some soldiers were immediately knocked down by the wind's force. Azazel leaped into the air before landing right beside 2 soldiers. The soldiers panicked, and before they could react, Azazel grabbed their heads. Gaia saw their heads explode like watermelons. Until now, Gaia had never seen the demon side of Azazel. Truth be told, she almost forgot Azazel was a demon and not a butler. He mimicked Michael's lightning dash to wreak havoc on the deck. In a couple of seconds, Gaia saw several bloody veils of mist in the air. Eventually, the soldiers fell down without their heads. Nightmare's kills were less brutal than Azazel's. He just flew above the ship, breathing frost to freeze the soldiers. After he froze them completely, Nightmare landed on the ship with enough force to shatter the frozen soldiers. Gaia only focused on killing the strongest one on the ship. He let Nightmare and Azazel have fun. What's happening there? Gaia looked at the swirling tornado. He couldn't see anyone or anything except blue bolts of lightning. Deep inside the tornado, the Death Squad soldiers led by Franklin went all in. They cut Michael's clothes into pieces. Michael ripped off his top, revealing his chiseled muscles. He waited for the real immortal killing spear to strike him. "Star formation," Franklin shouted. They couldn't even make Ghost bleed a drop of blood until now. This was the first time Franklin had fought a half-immortal. He read about how tough their bodies were, but it was still shocking to experience it in person. Whenever Franklin cut Ghost with the golden spear made of pure arch energy, he felt like he was cutting a metal block. He had a feeling Ghost was toying with them. He didn't even try to move or cast a spell. Instead, he hovered over the air, letting his soldiers attack him from all directions. Unlike Albert, Franklin didn't believe Hubert was still alive. If he was, the Thusians wouldn't be getting bombarded with mortar to this moment. The star formation was a code word to strike Ghost with the real immortal killing spear. Before the battle, the Death Squad had a meeting to finalize their attack plan with Edith. She wasn't a strategist, but Franklin and his men received many powerful scrolls from her. According to her, Ghost possessed an ability to see how strong his foes were despite the void effect. Hence, They decided to keep rotating the spear between the soldiers instead of Franklin keeping it. Since he was the strongest among them, Ghost would naturally target him, and if he had the spear, Ghost could kill and take the spear to himself. At that time, there would be nothing left to stop him. Franklin knew Ghost was underestimating them. That was the reason he was letting them attack him. Franklin decided to use his arrogance against him. As soon as the soldiers heard Franklin's order, they moved to form the star formation. Ghost was the center of their formation. The soldiers dashed forward with lightning speed. From the ground level, Gaia saw flashes of bright lights inside the dark tornado. When Franklin was a few meters away from Ghost, he flicked his wrist as the golden spear materialized in his hand. He did not wait for Ghost to turn around. 3 soldiers stabbed Ghost with their golden spears at the same time. This time, one of them was the real immortal killing weapon, and Franklin held it. As he and his men practiced, they transferred the rune to summon the real spear to Franklin at the very last second. The moment he received the rune, he summoned the spear and plunged it straight through Ghost's heart. Ghost coughed up blood as he grabbed the spear sticking out through his chest. Franklin twisted the spear. The images of his team getting struck by lightning bolts flashed across his eyes. He pushed the spear deeper. The soldiers finally stopped flying around Michael. They all felt relieved. Blood trickled down Ghost's mouth. "This is for all the Thusians you killed," Franklin growled. He pulled the spear and stabbed Ghost again. Although they fought wars from all sides continuously, they had never felt terrified until Ghost took over the cities they conquered in a couple of days. He wiped off the entire battalion led by powerful generals without breaking a sweat. For the first time, every soldier in Thusia felt the sprout of fear growing in their hearts. Seeing Ghost bleed and cough out blood was worth all the men and ships they had lost. Without Ghost, they could wipe off the resistance in a week or two. When Franklin stabbed Ghost for the 4th time, the soldiers felt relieved. But their relief was short-lived. Suddenly, a grin appeared on Ghost's face. He grabbed the spear and pulled it out of him. Franklin struggled to keep the spear in his hand as Ghost was too strong. "How did it feel?" asked Ghost. He spat out the blood. The devilish grin on his face sent chills running down their spines. Yet again, Michael spat a mouth full of blood. Despite the blood, his face showed no signs of pain. Franklin grabbed the spear with his 2 hands. Still, he couldn't overpower Ghost. "Back me up," Franklin shouted as the soldiers rushed to his aid. Some grabbed the spear, while some grabbed Michael's hands. At that moment, almost 30 soldiers struggled against Michael. "Shit," Franklin growled. He felt he was slowly losing the spear to Ghost. Wind blast. Suddenly, a powerful gust of wind blasted everyone away from Ghost. They flung away like kites without an anchor in a storm. When Franklin regained his balance, he saw the golden spear in Ghost's hands. Franklin poured his energy into the summoning rune to call the spear back to him. The golden spear frantically trembled in Michael's hands until Franklin saw the rune on his palm shatter. Ghost finally moved his head upwards to take a look at Franklin. The wounds on his chest closed up in a few blinks of an eye. Michael raised the spear, swinging it playfully. How did it feel to have some hope? How did it feel when that hope shattered just like that? Michael snapped. "Your whole plan depended on this, right? What did you expect? You stab me with it, saying some bullshit, and I die like a villain?" Michael's chuckle echoed through the air. "Nightmare, it's time," Franklin heard Michael. The very next moment, Michael dashed at Franklin. He appeared before him in a blink of an eye. Franklin immediately cast a spell as an ethereal bow and arrow appeared behind him. The gigantic bow and arrow lit the sky with its brightness. When Michael grabbed Franklin by his neck, the bow released the giant arrow. The arrow hit Michael. To Franklin's surprise, the arrow shattered into sparks of fire. He saw a translucent shield appear around Ghost for a moment before the arrow hit him. Franklin felt Ghost's grab around his neck tighten. He heard a thunderous roar. It was difficult for him to move his head. Still, he was able to see a dragon's shadow in the sky below them. While Franklin struggled under Michael's grab, Nightmare reached the bottom of the tornado. He flew around it, breathing frost onto the tornado. Gaia couldn't help raising her brows when she saw Nightmare freezing the entire tornado from down to the top. The temperature dropped by several degrees as Franklin watched his men getting froze to death without being able to do anything. "What are you?" Franklin barely managed to utter these words. "A god." Chapter 719, "Stab him with it, and the runes I engraved in it will take care of the rest," Franklin recalled Edith's words. He and his men were told that Ghost would die if he stabbed Ghost with the spear. On the contrary, nothing happened to Ghost. Even without Edith's runes, Franklin lived long enough to know a half-immortal could be killed with an immortal killing weapon. This spear was not like other immortal killing weapons. Instead, it was forged using several bones of a level 10 immortal and drenched in the immortal's blood for a year. He knew it should have killed Ghost. Michael lifted Franklin up. He was about to snap Franklin's neck when he sensed someone appears behind him. None of Franklin's men survived Nightmare's frost breath. The majority of them were stuck inside the frozen tornado, while a few were shot down from the sky by Gaia. It was Albert who decided to face Michael. Michael slowly turned around without letting go of Franklin. "Who are you?" Michael creased his brows. Not that Michael was ridiculing Albert, he seriously didn't know him. "Did you kill General Hubert?" asked Albert. Michael didn't respond to Albert. Instead, he pointed his finger at Albert. The golden lightning bolt crackled around Michael's fist before shooting toward Albert. Before Albert could react, a golden bolt of lightning penetrated his head. In the end, Albert couldn't keep his word to Hubert. Michael ended his life within a snap of time. Showing before Michael wearing the armor of Thusia was equal to killing themselves. Franklin saw the last member of the proud Mertz family falling from the sky. It made him wonder whether this was Thusia's end. "Yes," he said as though Ghost had read his mind. Franklin suddenly felt a sharp pain in his neck before everything around him turned dark. Finally, Michael let go of Franklin's body. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current stage is half-immortal level 8. Thanks to Gaia, Azazel, and Nightmare slaughtering the soldiers, Michael was able to get to level 8 without much effort. After he killed Franklin, Gaia flew straight to Michael. Because Nightmare had frozen the tornado and the pirate ships stopped destroying the Wuxian ships, the sea finally calmed down. Even from afar, Michael could smell the burning flesh and oil in the air. "That's a nice spear," Gaia said, looking at the spear. Not just a spear. An immortal killing spear. Michael told everything that happened, from the death squad appearance to Franklin stabbing him with the spear. The moment Gaia heard Michael let Franklin stab him, she squeezed Michael's shoulders. Her eyes glistened with anger and concern. "What the hell were you thinking?" Gaia almost slapped Michael. "Relax. If any immortal killing weapon could kill me, Qin Jiao and the Mazeroth founders wouldn't have made god-killing arrows. But it's good to confirm I cannot be killed with these things." Michael looked at the golden spear in his hand. "Please don't be too haughty, host. Although these weapons cannot kill you, you will lose your cultivation if you get stabbed through your head. If you get beheaded, your skills and spells will be reset to level 1, and you will float as a soul until the system finds you a body. It might take a week, a month, or even decades." The system sounded like it was yelling at Michael. The system's response wasn't a big surprise to Michael. "So we have to prioritize finding the god-killing arrows and the armor pieces you told me about earlier," said Gaia. "I already found one piece." Michael used the system to find one of his armor pieces for 300,000 badass points. He didn't know how many pieces there were. However, if his past self left these armor in pieces, it meant he did that for a reason. Most probably his past self did not want others or the Sky Hall to find the armor. He must have known his future self would use the system to find those armor pieces and assemble the armor. Michael wondered what made his past self reset an entire universe. He had few clues after hearing about Gaia's dream and his journey into various universes. "But if you pull any shit like this again, I will finish what the Sky Hall couldn't." "Of course you will, my dear Queenie." Michael wrapped his arm around her shoulder, pulling her closer to him. "My lord." Azazel flew directly to Michael. He bowed his head. His body was completely drenched with blood, and his eyes were with excitement. "You had a good time?" asked Michael. I have to say, my lord, I'd love to experience this feeling again. Keep your battle lust in check, Azazel. Don't let it go to your head, Gaia advised Azazel. After seeing how he slaughtered those soldiers, Gaia feared Azazel might become too addicted to killing people. Michael also noticed the glistening lust for blood in his eyes. He had seen the same battle lust in Spectre's eyes. But Michael did not say anything because he would take time to train all of his subordinates. He had ways to break one's lust for blood. Azazel, head to the dark forest and get yourself cleaned up. I want you to keep a close eye on all our people. I have a feeling the Thusians will hit back harder after this. As you wish, my lord. Azazel bowed toward Michael and Gaia before vanishing into thin air. Nightmare came flying to Michael as Gaia and Michael leaped onto his back. Several ships carrying King Gunnar and King Baldur's army finally reached the docks. Big Bertha did not come closer to the Golden Port but teleported back to the southern continent using Elidar's teleportation array. Now that Michael's naval army had wiped off almost two-thirds of the Thusian army, he let the army deal to occupy the Golden Port. Michael didn't bother to check on the army. Instead, he returned to King Gunnar's castle. Surprisingly, King Gunnar was there to welcome Michael, Gaia, and Nightmare with Yagner, General Bryce, and Prince Devarius. Their faces were brimming with delight. The three of them watched the Thusians getting destroyed by Ghost's naval army while they were inside the Thusian warehouse. Although they were terrified by the power of Ghost's naval army, they were glad he was against Thusia. Moreover, they robbed the warehouse clean. They knew that would certainly hurt the Thusians in their war. While walking toward them, Michael willed the system to equip a new set of clothes. Master Ghost, how's the war going? We saw your naval army was destroying the Thusians left and right. General Bryce grinned from ear to ear. It's over. We won. The Golden Port is yours. The smiles on their faces froze. You should quickly visit there and solidify the defenses. We don't want the Thusians to hit back, do we? Said Michael. Plus, your men need you until I finish some things up here, said Gaia. I assume you did your job well, Yagner nodded. Good. We can discuss it later. Now I have something else to do. Please excuse me. Of course, King Gunnar said. Leaving them behind, Michael headed toward his room. What are we doing? Asked Nightmare. He jumped onto the bed. Michael quickly closed the door and the curtains. Afterward, Michael willed the system to teleport them to the pocket dimension in the dark forest. Since the pocket dimension wasn't affected by winter, they felt warm and cozy. However, Michael was not in the mood to take a break. Instead, he took out the bottle filled with the royal dragon's blood. System, I have the royal dragon blood. So it's time to make Nightmare a royal dragon. It would cost the host 50,000 badass points. I know. Now tell me, what's the procedure? Asked Michael. Immediately, his badass points were reduced by 50,000. Please be advised the process of changing Nightmare's body from the molecular level will take up to a week. During this time, Nightmare will be unconscious. Noted, Michael nodded. You just need to inject the blood into Nightmare and let the system take care of the rest. An 8-inch syringe materialized in Michael's hand. Just the sight of the needle made Nightmare hold Gaia's neck tightly. For some reason, he feared the needle. What do you plan to do with that? Asked Gaia. When Michael filled the syringe with the royal dragon's blood, her question was answered. Nightmare, I'd suggest closing your eyes. Nightmare cowered behind Gaia's head, hearing Michael. Oh come on, you're not going to inject that thing into him. Gaia stopped Michael. Don't spoil him. He's a dragon. He won't even feel it. Michael rolled his eyes. Figure out another way. Gaia took a step back. She was not willing to let Michael stab Nightmare with that giant needle. Nightmare! Michael called out Nightmare. His voice was stern as Nightmare slowly peeked his head through Gaia's hair. Don't you want to be stronger? This injection can make you an unstoppable royal dragon. Nightmare's eyes sparkled. He slowly climbed on top of Gaia's head and stood on his two legs. What's wrong with being a forest dragon? We just killed a royal dragon. Bloodline means shit when you don't have power and battle experience, Gaia protested. Although she was right as usual, Michael wanted Nightmare to be a royal dragon. He didn't want Nightmare to feel inferior to any dragon in this world. It's okay, Nightmare nudged Gaia's head with his face. He then leaped onto Ghost's hand and closed his eyes tight. Shoo! Surprisingly, Gaia hissed, closing her eyes as though Michael was sticking the needle into her neck. Michael slowly injected the royal dragon's blood into Nightmare. The more he injected the blood, the hotter Nightmare's skin felt. He placed Nightmare under the apple tree. You can open your eyes now, Michael said to Gaia. Chapter 7:20. The next day after the Golden Port battle, a group of men was riding their horses through the frozen paddy fields. There were 20 to 30 wooden houses covered in snow. The women and men in the village stepped out of their warm homes to start their day. From the outside, the village looked no different than any other farming village. But this village was something more. It was a place where the Northgard rebels were hiding. General Zachary, the winter seemed to have hit this village pretty hard. Don't you think so? The man who led the group asked General Zachary. Except for the leader, the others were adorned with leather armor with metal plating to protect their chests and shoulders. 6 of the 7 of them were soul refining stage warriors. The leader was at the fusion stage level 10. He was none other than General Booth. Now, after being offered the Duchy of Valeria, he was called Duke Booth by the Thusians. Duke Booth halted riding his white-maned horse and stared at the village in the distance. I think we should warm them up. Booth turned his gaze toward Zachary. His eyes glistened with killing intent. General Zachary nodded. Wasting no time, General Zachary ascended to the air. He flew toward the village. Bring me the village leader and 5 others, Booth said to another soul-refining stage general. Burn the rest, Booth said. He was nonchalant. To him, burning this village was no different than having breakfast. He lost count of how many villages he burnt down and how many people he had killed. The villagers didn't notice Zachary hovering in the sky above them. The snowfall made their vision blurry. Their peaceful day took a turn for the worst when a fiery boulder hit the center of the village. The boulder hit the village with enough force to decimate the surrounding homes. Pieces of the fiery boulder scattered out, lighting the village like a Christmas tree. Some people screamed in shock, and some screamed in pain. General Austin was ordered to capture the village elder and 5 others. I hope the old man is still in one piece, General Austin said, looking at the fire engulfing the entire village. He headed for the only 2-story building in the village. If the village elder was somewhere, it would be this lavish home. Meanwhile, General Zachary rained down fire from above. General Austin flew through the falling fiery boulders to the village elder's home. General Booth watched the village burn with a calm face. Zachary is definitely having fun with his new spell, Booth chuckled. He gifted the spell to Zachary for capturing Prince Devarius. People would literally kill to have such a powerful epic class spell. The destruction this spell brought could be compared to a legendary class spell. The boulders crushed the villagers and burnt their skin off. To this moment, the villagers had no idea why they were being slaughtered. Suddenly, 5 men shot toward the sky from the village. They wore silver robes and hoods to cover their heads. Booth and his general were familiar with the robes. Their robes once represented the Northgard royal family, and now, they belonged to the rebels led by Prince Devarius. Booth's mission was simple. He wanted to burn down some villages and take a few hostage. Unfortunately, he decided to burn down this village because the rebels chose this place to hide. General Zachary didn't even flinch when he saw the rebels. It's because of you those villagers are dying right now, Zachary said with a devilish grin on his face. Fury and rage glistened under the rebels' hoods. The Thusians had invaded their homeland, pillaged their farms, feasted on their women, and burnt down villages. Simply put, the Thusians turned a once peaceful kingdom into a war zone. They did nothing to you, bastard. One of the rebels couldn't keep his rage contained. He dashed at Zachary with his sword raised. The sword radiated a violet light. Hand of Justice. Zachary cast a spell as a fist made of sparkling silver energy materialized above the rebel. The rebel swung his sword left and right, trying to cut the fist. However, the power gap between a core formation warrior and a soul refining stage warrior with cosmic energy coursing through his body was gigantic. The fist opened up, grabbed the rebel, and squeezed him until he turned into a bloody paste. Before the other rebels could retaliate, Zachary raised his hand as several boulders soared down the sky and landed right on top of the rebels. The fire enveloping the boulders burnt down the rebels. They couldn't even defend themselves against Zachary. Booth watched the rebels' burnt bodies falling down from the sky with an amused smile. Booth didn't give a damn about the rebels. Otherwise, he would have ordered his men to capture them. No, Booth had bigger plans for the villagers. After killing the rebels, Zachary cast the meteor spell once again, not because he was required to but because he liked casting his new spell. In a few minutes, the village was completely destroyed. Furthermore, the spells turned the flat village into a massive crater. The village elder's house finally crumbled down to pieces. Luckily, Austin managed to grab the elder and 5 others in a bubble before Zachary destroyed the house. Despite the winter, the air became hotter. It took a few moments for the silence to take over the village. Except for the sound of crackling wood, one could hear nothing. When Zachary and Austin returned to Booth, he saw the unconscious bodies of the village elder and 5 others. "Send them to my castle," Booth waved his hand casually. Zachary nodded as he took out a golden scroll. When he tore the scroll, a bright light enveloped the villagers. The light disappeared as soon as it appeared with the villagers. "Where to your grace?" asked Zachary. "Isn't there another village nearby?" asked Booth. His men bobbed their heads up and down. "Then let's go there." The next day after Booth's visit to Northgard, Booth was ordered to meet someone from the Guardian Guild. Booth stood before the mirror, neatly combing his hair and mustache. Usually, Booth preferred to be in armor and avoid fancy robes, but today was an exception. Apparently, the man he was about to meet was a major financial backer of the Guardian Guild. So Princess Victoria ordered him to be on his best behavior. "Why can't Edith meet with this old pig?" Booth snickered. "Your Grace, Lord Oswald is waiting for you in the guest room." Booth heard his maid sound gentle and sweet as always. "He'll be there in a minute," said Booth. He adjusted his robes one last time and walked out of the room. By the time he reached the guest room, he saw a short man with no hair whatsoever on his head munching on the apples waiting for him. The man's belly was big enough to make Booth doubt whether he had swallowed a pig whole. "Duke Booth," the man grinned from ear to ear. Bits of pieces of apple flew out of his mouth. He was simply disgusting in Booth's eyes. Nonetheless, he had to show this man some respect in order to get his help. "Lord Oswald, I hope you had a pleasant trip." Booth let out a phony smile. "It was wonderful," Lord Oswald clapped. "I honestly didn't think Princess Victoria would personally reach out to me and ask me to meet you." "This must be pretty important given the unfortunate circumstances," said Oswald. "It's not unfortunate, just a few bumps on the road. With your help, we can sort it out in no time," said Booth. "My help? I am not sure what I can do to help you in this war, Duke Booth." Oswald scratched his bald head. Booth was not stupid to believe Oswald. He knew very well the man was trying to play hardball. "I heard Lord Oswald has taken a liking to a piece of land in Valeria. Is there any truth to what I heard?" asked Booth. People like Oswald had no chance of reaching higher cultivation stages. Hence, they loved wealth, land, and women more than they loved cultivation resources. Although Oswald had enough wealth to feed at least 5 generations, he lusted for more wealth and land. Victoria knew this. Her spies had been following Oswald for at least 6 months now. "I did like the land of Duke Booth, but I heard it belonged to Queen Valeria's family," Oswald sighed. "I can literally imagine a 5-acre vineyard, the smell of ripe grapes and the sweet taste of high-quality wine." Booth leaned forward. "What if I tell you I can get you the land and help you build the vineyard of your dream?" Oswald pretended to be surprised. But inside, he knew he could get his hands on the land. Thanks to Ghost, the Thusians had no choice but to come to him. "In exchange for?" Oswald dragged his words. "In exchange for the Guardian Guild to send their rogue immortals to deal with Ghost," said Booth. "That's a pretty big ask for a piece of land, Duke Booth." "It's not my decision but the board's decision. General Booth smiled. We both know your capabilities to sway them to your side, Lord Oswald. Also, it's not only about the land, its power and respect. Let's just assume I can help you. There are 7 others on the board. Convincing them to vote to send an immortal to Wuxia to help you win a war that you started first is nothing but impossible. Oswald shook his head. You've made the impossible possible by rewriting the rules, Lord Oswald. Don't you think the land would go nice with the princess? Oswald was pleasantly surprised. What do you mean by that, Duke Booth? Oswald asked. His jaw almost dropped down. I mean, once you sway the board to send an immortal to put an end to Ghost, His Majesty would be happy to offer Princess Victoria's hands to your son in marriage. I am pretty sure that's worth more than the votes of your fellow board members. Are you joking with me right now, Duke Booth? Asked Oswald. Booth's smile disappeared from his face. Do I look like I am joking, Lord Oswald? Chapter 721. A few hours later, Edith arrived at Booth's castle. The moment Edith entered the guest room, she saw Booth waiting for her with his men. Judging by the dark lines on his face, she could tell the negotiation with Oswald did not go as Booth liked. Miss Edith, Booth greeted her with a light bow. How did it go? Asked Edith. I have good and bad news. The good news is that Gross Pig agreed to help us. The bad news is the Guardian will only send a half immortal off the books, said Booth. They are afraid of the effects of 2 immortals battling it out. Edith joined Booth and his men at the table. I expected this. But if my plan worked, the Guardians would be forced to send all their immortals after Ghost. Give me the reports of the Golden Port battle. Booth grabbed a scroll and slid it toward Edith. She opened it up to read everything that had transpired in the Golden Port. Victoria's spies wrote everything that happened in the Golden Port from start to finish. General Franklin finished his mission, said Edith. Booth was confused by her words. As far as he read the report, Ghost massacred the Death Squad. Furthermore, they managed to lose the immortal killing weapon given to Franklin by Princess Victoria. That spear was more valuable than Franklin's life. So even if Franklin was alive, Booth would have killed him just for losing the spear. Unless his mission was to lose the spear and die, I don't see how his mission was a success. General Zachary rolled his eyes. That was his mission. Everyone, including Booth, was startled by her answer. Is there something you need to share with the group, Miss Edith? Booth's voice became cold. As the general of the Wuxian army, Booth did not like secret plans behind his back. Judging by the look in Edith's eyes, Booth could tell she did plan something behind his back. I placed a special rune on the spear. Special rune? Booth tilted his head. Do you remember that the Dark Lord chased Ghost to the Royal Land Holy Church and almost killed him? Booth and his men nodded. Thanks to the talented engineers and rune masters in Wuxia, we have managed to create a rune that would mimic the Dark Lord's energy signature. Seeing the bewildered faces of the generals, Edith sighed. She took a moment to simplify things for them to understand. Just think that the rune will make Ghost look like the Dark Lord, said Edith. Truth be told, even Edith wasn't clear about the effects of the rune. Unlike she told Booth and her men, neither she nor the Thusians created the rune. Instead, she found the scroll instructing her how to create the rune to stop Ghost in her room. To this moment, she had no idea who left the rune or how they managed to get into her room in Wuxian Castle, one of the most protected places in the world. The circumstances forced Edith to create the rune instead of finding out who had left it in her room. So why aren't we not activating the rune? If what you said about the rune was true, we don't need Oswald, said Booth. We need 4 more days for the rune to stay with Ghost. According to this report, he had taken the spear with him. Let him keep that. We just need 4 more days, said Edith. After meeting Booth, Edith returned to her room in Wuxian Castle. To her shock, Layla was standing inside her room with an ancient parchment in her hand. Layla's eyes were both filled with anger and concern. What is this? Layla raised the parchment with several runes and instructions written on it. It's nothing. Edith rushed forward and snatched the parchment from Layla. And what the hell are you doing in my room? Isn't it enough for you to stay in the castle? Now you need to stay in my room? Edith snarled. You created something you shouldn't have. You are making things worse for everyone, Edith. Layla's voice was colder than usual. Although she was not a rune master, she knew enough to know Edith had created something to turn Ghost into the Dark Lord in front of the world. Layla didn't come here to protect only Edith but also Ghost. Seeing Edith stoop to such lengths to save Thusia and the royal family hurt Layla. At least I am doing something. Edith's eyes turned red in anger. You're trying to frame Ghost for being the Dark Lord. He doesn't deserve that. Don't you think Thusia has taken enough from him? You know everything they did to him. Why are you still siding with them? Because Victoria is my friend, Edith stomped the floor. And I am your sister, Layla raised her voice. Do not do this, Edith. If you do this, the Thusians will keep hurting innocent people. Open your eyes, Layla. We are at war and I picked my side. If I don't stop Ghost, he will kill Victoria and her family. I won't let that happen as long as I am alive. This is not the way to stop him. Listen to yourself. This is not you. Layla grabbed Edith's shoulder and shook her. Don't talk to me like you know me, Layla. Layla was stunned by Edith's words for a few moments. The anger in Edith's eyes shocked Layla to the core. You care about Ghost more than you ever cared about your own family, Edith. Layla gritted her teeth. The temperature in the room suddenly dropped by several degrees. What? You want to kill me? Edith growled. You have never ever given a damn about your family. Layla slapped Edith with enough force to make Edith stumble backward and fall down. Blood trickled down from the corner of Edith's mouth. There she is. That's the Layla Alden I know. That's the Layla Alden our father knew. That's the Layla Alden our Alden family knew before they killed our father because of what you did. Edith's eyes became watery. Don't put that on me. Father had no right to give his word to someone else about marrying me. It wasn't his decision to make. He did nothing wrong as a father. You could have rejected the marriage in so many ways. But no, you shamed father in front of all Gondolin. Tears rolled out of Edith's eyes. You hated him for marrying my mother, and you used his one downfall to shame him. Because of what you did, they killed our father. Edith's shout turned into a powerful wave. The flower vases in the room shattered as a result. Except for Layla, Edith's furious roar moved everything in the room. I killed them all, Layla growled. She couldn't control her body from trembling in anger. Until now, she didn't know Edith was blaming her for what happened to Nobert Alden. However, her hatred was justified. After all, Edith didn't know what really happened. If Layla was in Edith's place, she would hate her too. The only reason why Layla didn't tell Edith was the truth would destroy the image of Nobert in Edith's heart. Layla didn't want to sully the memory of Nobert. Did that bring father back? Edith picked herself from the floor. Her cheek still had Layla's handprint on it. You are the reason why father was killed. But you didn't care to stick around. I watched my mother cry every day. I watched our family decline. I lived in the mess you left behind. But where were you? You were living your life on your own island like a queen. You have no idea what really happened, just like you have no idea what's happening around you now, said Layla. Only a few really knew what really happened between Layla and her father. Not even Edith's mother knew what he really did and why Layla left her family, leaving everyone behind. Say what you want. I picked my side. Even if Victoria was in the wrong, I wouldn't leave her side. Do you know why? Because she was there for our family and me when you weren't. I might be naive, stupid, and all other things, but I am not ungrateful. Did you bother to think about the people around Ghost? What would happen to them after you frame him? I am sick of you caring for Ghost. Who is he to you? Edith raised her voice. She grabbed Layla. Who is he to you? Why are you trying to save him so much? Edith shook Layla as he continuously questioned Layla about the relationship between her and Ghost. Layla clenched her fist. He is the father of my child. The moment these words escaped Layla's mouth, Edith's body tensed. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. Silence fell over the room. What? Finally, Edith let go of Layla as tears rolled out of her eyes. Layla kept this a secret long enough. She was already hurt by Edith, so when she kept questioning her about Ghost, Layla couldn't control herself. Her legs gave up as Layla collapsed to the ground. Layla, what are you talking about? Although Edith was furious at Layla, when she saw the tears in her eyes, Edith couldn't stay mad at Layla. Despite all the hatred and anger, Edith loved Layla. That was the truth. You have a child? Asked Edith. She sat beside Layla and wrapped her hands around Layla. A spirit child, Layla mumbled. It took Edith a few moments to let her words sink into her head. Why didn't you tell me about this? Asked Edith. Layla sobbed instead of responding to Edith. It's okay. You don't have to carry the burden yourself. I'm here. Please get it out of your chest. Don't keep it bottled. I know what it would do to a person. You are always smarter than me. Tell me what happened, Layla. Edith wiped off the tears rolling out of Layla's eyes. Eventually, Layla gave up and began to share everything that happened between her and Ghost with Edith. But unknown to them, someone else was outside their room, listening to Layla's story. This can change everything, the figure standing outside mumbled. Chapter 722. A few hours after Edith and Layla argued in Edith's room, Zachary rushed to the Duchy of Valeria. He almost knocked down the guards on his way to Booth's room. General Booth's gonna love this, Zachary mumbled. Your Grace, Zachary knocked on Booth's door. Seeing no response coming from Booth, Zachary knocked once again. Your Grace, it's Zachary, said Zachary. Come in. Finally, Zachary heard Booth's voice. He didn't even wait for a second as he pushed open the door. Seeing the brightened face of Zachary, Booth tossed the scroll in his hand away. He leaned back in his chair. What is it? Asked Booth. Your Grace, you're not going to believe what I just heard. Enlighten me, said Booth. Layla, Alden and Ghost have a child. The moment Booth heard Zachary, his eyes went wide. Soon, Zachary told Booth everything from Edith's argument with Layla to the existence of the spirit child. Booth couldn't believe what he heard from Zachary. When he sent Zachary to bring Edith to him, he didn't expect Zachary would bring shocking news such as this. This could change the tide of this war, Zachary said with a devilish grin. Booth couldn't remain seated anymore. He stood up, went to the window, and popped his fingers, thinking about what to do with the news Zachary brought. His Majesty is in seclusion. We cannot wait for his orders. What about Her Royal Highness? Asked Zachary. Booth shook his head. She has a soft spot for Edith. If we tell her about this, she might not use it as we should, said Booth. Knowing their friendship, Booth was certain that Victoria would not let them touch Layla's child. Victoria was indeed ruthless, but not enough to kidnap a child. It was his job to make decisions that no one else had the guts to make. Then you have to give us an order, Your Grace, said Zachary. For a few moments, Booth formed a plan in his mind. Booth slowly turned his gaze away from the city before him to Zachary. Go to the Rainbow Islands, survey the place and kidnap the child. Anyone else would have been stunned by Booth's order but not Zachary. In fact, he expected a bold decision like this from Booth. Making ruthless and bold decisions such as this made Booth the best general Thusia had ever seen. Without him, Thusia wouldn't have won the wars and become a terrifying superpower in his heir. Zachary and the others had undying faith in Booth and were willing to do anything Booth ordered. What about the Aldens? They won't take kindly to kidnapping their blood. If Edith's plan worked, the guild would take care of Ghost, and we can return the child without revealing anything. But if her plan didn't work, then we need this child to stop Ghost. This child is our trump card, said Booth. Can I take General Austin with me, Your Grace? Asked Zachary. Yes, but do not fail me and do not get caught. We must keep this under wrap and only use this child if Edith's plan fails, said Booth. Roger that, Your Grace. After Zachary left the room, a devilish grin emerged on Booth's face. This time, I will cut your head and make sure you stay dead, Abras, Booth grinned. Until Princess Victoria told him about Ghost, he thought he killed Abras. To be honest, Booth didn't even remember Abras. If he had known Abras would not only survive but also become a half-immortal, he would have severed Abras' head. It was a mistake Booth regretted to this moment. However, Zachary brought a solution to fix all the mess caused by Ghost. You might be a half-immortal. But now, I know you're also a father. You shouldn't have entered into this war with a child, my dear boy. You're gonna wish you stayed away from Thusia, Booth laughed. While Zachary and Austin were heading toward the Rainbow Islands, Queen Valeria summoned Victoria to her room. The room was elegantly arranged. The fireplace in the corner radiated a gentle warmth. Valeria personally decorated the room to her preference. Several portraits of her family riddled the walls. The large queen-size bed was located near the fireplace. The moment Victoria entered the room, she was welcomed by a gentle motherly embrace from Valeria. You must be tired. Come sit here with me. Valeria dragged Victoria to the comfy sofa set. She forced Victoria to sit beside her. Did you have your breakfast? Asked Valeria. We lost the golden port, mother. I think breakfast can wait, said Victoria. They have won a battle, yes. But we are fighting a war. A single battle won't decide the result. Valeria gently placed her hand on Victoria's shoulder. Just a single glance was enough for Valeria to know how much pressure Victoria was under. The kingdom of Thusia was prepared to fight armies but not a half-immortal. They never expected someone like Ghost would wage war against them. But despite losing the cities and battles, Valeria remained calm. This is just a setback. I am sure your father will fix the situation as he always does, said Valeria. I have something to lighten your mood. Valeria stood up. She went outside the room for a moment and returned carrying a box. Mother, give me that. Victoria rose from her chair to take the wooden box from Valeria. I am at the soul refining stage, Victoria. I think I can handle a box, Valeria chuckled. She placed the box on the table before Victoria. Open it, said Valeria. Victoria glanced between her mother and the box for a moment. Judging by the size of the box, Victoria could tell it contained something big and heavy. She slowly opened the box. To her surprise, it was a set of armor specially forged for her by the best blacksmith in Thusia. The silver armor radiated powerful energy. Countless runes glowed under the radiant light of the flames. This set of armor had a flat top helm with half a face guard shaped like the eyes of an angel. Two tall, wing-like ornament pieces attached to the forehead area and the backside. The shoulders were oval, short, and quite large. They were decorated with rows of colored crystals and gems. The upper arms were protected by pointed, fully covering rear braces which sat well under the shoulder plates. The lower arms were covered by vambraces which had several huge, sharp spikes on the outer sides. Victoria lifted the armor from the box. She was surprised by the lightness of the armor. Although the armor was forged using the strongest metals, it was lighter than one would expect. The breastplate was made from one large piece of metal. It covered everything from the neck down and ended at the thighs. The upper legs were covered by squared, fully covering cuisses, while the lower legs were protected by greaves which had several layers of curved metal attached to the outer sides, forming a wing-like pattern. Do you like it? Asked Valeria. As she expected, Victoria smiled. I love it, now go put it on. I want to see how my baby girl looks in her battle armor. Now? Victoria was taken aback by surprise. She creased her brows as Valeria pinched her cheek. I am going to head outside for a moment, and when I come back, you better be wearing this. Valeria didn't bother to wait for Victoria's answer. Instead, she walked out of the room. Having no choice, Victoria began to unbuckle her current robes. Almost 30 minutes later, Valeria entered the room. When she saw Victoria in the armor, her eyes went wide. In her eyes, Victoria looked like the goddess of war herself. Even Valeria felt a sliver of fear in her heart seeing Victoria in the battle armor. Mother, Victoria's voice snapped Valeria out of her shock. Have you tried putting your cosmic energy into the armor? Asked Valeria. Victoria shook her head before pouring a sliver of cosmic energy into the armor. The runes engraved into the armor made it feel like a part of her body. When she used her cosmic energy, the runes glowed. She felt her strength increasing exponentially. With a flick of her wrist, Valeria activated the teleportation array in her room. In a blink of an eye, they were teleported from Valeria's cozy room to a training area with countless dummies in place. Go crazy, said Valeria. Seeing the wooden dummies in place, Victoria wanted to vent her suppressed anger onto them. She dashed at the dummies with speed beyond any mortals. The runes amplified the power of her spells. When she got close to the dummy, she didn't cast a spell or use her sword to cut it down. Instead, she just punched the dummy with her bare fist. The force behind her punch made the dummy shatter into pieces. Victoria did not stop as she dashed toward another one. Even though the dummies looked weak and fragile, each of them was as strong as a soul-refining stage level 1 cultivator. But they never stood a chance against Victoria. Her armor and the cosmic energy made her stronger than any fusion stage cultivator. Since she had an immortal killing weapon, she could even fight a half-immortal. As seconds passed by, Victoria became faster and more ferocious. These dummies served as an outlet for her anger. She imagined these dummies as ghosts and destroyed them to pieces. After a few minutes, the training ground was littered with broken wooden dummies. "That's enough, honey," Valeria raised her voice. Only then did Victoria manage to control her battle lust. When Victoria returned to Valeria, she looked Victoria in the eyes. "Anger can be a great weapon, if you can control it," said Valeria. "Your enemies will use your anger against you. Do not let them. The greatest weapon you have is in here." Valeria touched Victoria's head. Victoria listened to her mother's wisdom without uttering a word. Afterward, she took a long walk with her mother to calm her mind and soul. Valeria was happy to accompany her daughter and share her wisdom. Chapter 723. Zachary and Austin left for the Rainbow Islands with one goal: to take Layla's child with them. They completely covered their bodies with dark robes to hide their identities. Using a teleportation portal, they managed to reach the outskirts of the Rainbow Island when the sun was setting down on the horizon. The two of them hovered in the air, staring at the island. Until now, no one entered the Rainbow Islands with ill intentions. First, Layla didn't have any enemies. She was a pretty private, secluded person. Second, no one wanted to piss off a powerful fusion stage cultivator like Layla Alden. Third, except for the specialty that Layla was living on the island, there was nothing special about the island. It was just a fishing island with peaceful fishermen living on it. "How do we do this?" asked Austin. "I think stealth is the best option. Let's wait for nightfall and we strike," said Zachary. "Meanwhile, it's better if we do some recon," Austin nodded. The two of them slowly flew toward the island. Since the people living on the island were just simple fishermen, they didn't sense Austin and Zachary. They flew through the canopy and used the forest to hide. The two of them made their way toward the mountain peak where Layla Alden lived. Instead of flying, they chose to move towards it fastly. "According to my guys, she has 2 disciples on this island," said Austin. "Johanna and Narrated. 2 orphans. Picked up from the streets and raised by Layla. How strong are they?" asked Zachary. "Before the void effect, they were seen at soul refining stage level 3, said Austin. "It's safe to assume they are a couple of levels higher now," Austin nodded. The forest was deadly silent. Except for the sound of crickets and the twigs breaking under Austin and Zachary's footsteps, they heard nothing. "Can you believe Ghost banged Layla?" "Lucky bastard," Austin exclaimed. "He didn't. He soul-walked her. They must have been stuck in some weird situation to go for that," said Zachary. The two discussed Ghost and Layla while moving through the forest. "What's the plan if anyone finds us? Are we allowed to kill them or just knock them out?" asked Austin. "No killing. We don't want any of this to come biting our asses later." Eventually, the two of them reached the base of the mountain. Since it was night, there was no one in the area to see them. All the inhabitants of the island went to sleep. Austin and Zachary slowly ascended toward the mountain's top. They saw a cave opening at the top leading into the mountain where Layla lived. To their surprise, the moment they climbed to the top of the mountain, they saw 2 young girls at the cave entrance with Venus. Austin and Zachary suppressed their auras. Therefore, they were bewildered. They had no idea how the 2 girls sensed them. "You have a minute to leave this place," Johanna growled. "Oh shit," Austin mumbled under his breath. Since they got caught, they had no choice but to fight them. Booth would forgive them if they took the child. Otherwise, he would flay them alive just because they got caught by the girls. "If you take a walk for a minute, no one will get hurt," said Zachary. Seeing no response coming from the two girls, Zachary sighed. "I thought so." Fire dash. Zachary was about to cast a spell when the two girls played a string of their venas. A powerful gust of wind knocked them into the air. It took Zachary and Austin a few minutes to balance themselves in the air. By playing a single string, the girls knocked them out. The two generals were startled by their sheer power. However, they weren't afraid of the two girls. Instead, battle lust glistened in their eyes. Zachary was tempted to use the meteor spells. However, he controlled himself, imagining the destruction it would cause. He wanted to take the child alive. If he used the meteor spell, that might become a problem. Zachary and Austin dashed toward Johanna and narrated. The two girls played a powerful melody as a heat wave pushed Zachary and Austin backward. King's Shield. Zachary and Austin cast a defense shield. A bright light shot out of Zachary and Austin, forming an energy shield in the shape of a crown. The energy crown surrounded them. With the shield around them, Austin and Zachary slowly pushed forward. On the other hand, Johanna and Narita ascended into the air with their venas. They continued to play the venas. Each time they struck a chord, a powerful wave of energy hit the shield around Zachary and Austin. When the shield and the wave clashed, the shield formed several cracks. The powerful melody reverberated through the air, waking the animals in the forest. Even the snowfall seemed to have been stopped by the melody. While Zachary was keeping the shield up, Austin summoned his silver spear. He threw the spear through the energy waves produced by the two girls. As soon as the spear left his hand, another one materialized in his hand. The spear he threw soared through the air and penetrated the ground several inches away from Johanna. Suddenly, the spear exploded, temporarily stunning the two girls. They did not expect the spear to explode. Before the two girls could retaliate, Austin darted forward like an arrow with the spear in his hand. He quickly closed the gap between him and the girls. As soon as he got close to them, the girls lost their advantage. Austin swung his spear left and right. The spear cut Johanna's hand. He wanted to stab the girl through her heart, and he almost did when Narita struck a chord to push him back. Johanna gritted her teeth and struck the string as another powerful wave blasted Austin away. The two girls had the chance to take the battle to a different area. However, they always looked over their shoulder at the cave opening as though they had something to protect. Zachary smiled. Judging by their look, it was obvious the spirit child was inside. Meanwhile, Austin rapidly threw the spear toward them and made them explode. This time, the girls quickly formed golden shields around them. Every time a spear exploded, it created a crack in their shields. Zachary and Austin put the two girls in defense as they moved closer and closer to the cave's mouth. Starfire. Zachary raised his arms, casting a spell. The cosmic energy shot out of his body, forming a giant star above them. The star fired several arrows engulfed in fire at the girls. These arrows penetrated their shields as more and more cracks formed in the shield. Johanna began to play the vina faster. The gentle melody put the animals in the forest back to sleep. Their music created a ripple in the sky. Soon, Zachary and Austin felt being pulled up into the sky. They resisted the pull by using cosmic energy. A thin veil of violent energy enveloped their bodies. Austin gritted his teeth. He poured his cosmic energy into the spear. As a result, the spear trembled uncontrollably. Arg! Austin roared, raising his spear in the air. Johanna and Narita saw multiple spears appear around Austin. They all slowly turned their pointy ends at them. In a blink of an eye, all the spears shot toward them. The golden shield withstood a couple of spears, but when the fifth one hit the shield, it shattered into millions of tiny specks of golden light. The backlash sent Narita and Johanna stumbling back. This time, Zachary did not allow them to fight back. He dashed forward, conjuring a sword made of red-hot flames. Zachary left a fiery trail behind. Austin immediately dashed away from Zachary's path, but not before he dipped his spear in flames radiating from the sword. He threw the flaming spear. The spear exploded as countless flaming pieces hit Narita and Johanna. Narita and Johanna almost lost their grip around the Venus. The specks of fire burned through their clothes and skin. They couldn't even scream as Zachary swung his fiery sword left and right. These flames were not just typical flames but flames created by cosmic energy. Each of Zachary's swings was precise and deadly. He cut the Venus in half like a hot knife through butter. A light bright enough to make all of them shut their eyes tight appeared from the two Venus. Immediately, Narita and Johanna coughed up blood. When the light disappeared, they fell down to the ground. Austin did not spare them as he landed on Narita's back and stomped her. "Hey," Zachary yelled. "I am just knocking her out," Austin grinned devilishly. "Bastard." Johanna screamed, only to get a boot to her face. Austin enjoyed beating up the two girls. Narita tried to crawl toward the cave mouth to stop the two, but everything turned darker when Zachary kicked her head. She was knocked out cold. Austin turned around to see the two girls. He was tempted to throw them down from the mountain. "We are not killing them," Zachary growled. Sisters. Suddenly, they heard a child's voice resonate in the cave. The voice was sweet and gentle yet domineering at the same time. Zachary felt a strange power in the voice. The voice snuffed out the flaming sword in an instant. A sliver of fear emerged in his heart for some reason. He slowly stepped into the dark cave, followed by Austin. The two of them tried not to make any sound. "Where are you?" The child's playful voice echoed through the cave. "Is it only me, or this kid is kind of freaky?" asked Austin. Just like Zachary, Austin too felt a strange power in the child's voice. The closer they got to the end of the cave, the louder footsteps sounded. The child's chuckle kept echoing through the cave. The two of them never thought a chuckle would freak them out. Ignoring the fear in their hearts, they kept walking deeper into the cave. Taking the child with them might put an end to Ghost's terrorizing reign. Compared to Edith's plan, Zachary liked threatening Ghost with his child more. Chapter 724. Michael was busy dealing with the aftermath of the Golden Port battle. At that Northgard, he was in a room filled with sacks of grain, artifacts, food, crates of potions and pills, and gold coins. Everything in front of him was his share of the Golden Port warehouse. Michael kept everything in the dark forest. "My lord," Azazel appeared behind Michael. "What is it?" asked Michael without even turning around. His mind was occupied with future plans. "Lady Alden has told Edith about you and her." Azazel's words brought Michael out of his thinking. He turned around with a frown. Since Layla wore the necklace given by Michael, Azazel watched everything that had transpired between Layla and Edith. Unfortunately, Michael had no idea Zachary and Austin kidnapped the spirit child to threaten him. "Why did she do that?" asked Michael. He followed Azazel behind to the surveillance room. With a flick of his wrist, Azazel replayed the recording of Layla and Edith. Michael watched the scene without blinking an eye. Looking at Layla argue with Edith, he was surprised. He never expected Layla to slap Edith literally. This was the second time Michael had seen her lose her calm and composure. Truth be told, Michael didn't think he could hate Edith more. Anyone with half a brain could tell Layla was not at fault with her father. It was obvious to Michael Norbert had done something to deserve Layla's wrath. But her family matter was not Michael's concern. By telling Edith what had happened between him and her, Layla had given something that could be used against both of them to Edith, a lackey of Victoria. "Azazel, go to the Rainbow Island and make sure everything's fine," Michael immediately ordered Azazel. "As you wish, my lord." Azazel knew the urgency of the matter. Hence, he quickly bowed and disappeared from Michael's sight. While Azazel was on his way to the Rainbow Islands, Michael headed for the pocket dimension to meet Elidar. Meanwhile, Gaia was in the southern continent in her Dark Queen armor. She met Corey to get a report of the Golden Port battle. Since they achieved an overwhelming victory, Gaia ordered all the crew to take a day and celebrate as they saw fit, except the crew of Big Bertha. They were allowed to do anything to enjoy their day except drinking. Michael was strict about the booze policy. If anyone in his crew got drunk, he would throw them overboard. Because Michael wanted them sane and clear-headed all the time. Gaia called Corey to the upper deck. She enjoyed the peace and calm of the sea around her. Winter had hit the entire world at the same time. However, the southern continent wasn't as cold as Azer or Elon. Corey approached Gaia wearing a thick fur coat. The upper deck was empty since the crew was enjoying their day on the deck below them. "How many ships have we lost?" asked Gaia. 30 to the storm and 20 to the Thusians." 30 to the storm? Seriously? Gaia shook her head. She was disappointed in the pirates. "We have taken control of almost 400 Thusian ships." "But my lady, we lack the manpower to man those ships," said Corey. "I took the initiative to recruit more pirates. It takes some time, but we will have enough men in a month or two." "Good. If it wasn't for the storm and lack of crew, Corey could have captured more Thusian ships." Using the raging storm to their advantage, many Thusian ships escaped Golden Port. That was the reason they were only able to capture 400 ships. "Can I ask you something, my lady?" asked Corey. Gaia nodded. "Who are those people who fought that giant dragon? Are they our allies?" "You could say that. Were you afraid? Afraid of dragons?" Gaia chuckled. "Kinda," Corey nervously smiled. "Then I hope you can overcome your fears sooner than later." After dealing with the things in the southern continent, Gaia left for King Gunnar's castle. When she arrived at the room where they planned everything, she saw Yagner, Prince Devarius, and General Bryce waiting for her. Prince Devarius was trembling as his eyes were bloodshot. Judging by the look, Gaia could tell something had happened in Northgard. "What happened?" asked Gaia. "The farmlands and villages in Northgard." Yagner hesitated to finish his sentence. "They ravaged the places, burnt many and took some villages hostage. Then what are we waiting for?" "General Bryce, gather our men," Gaia ordered General Bryce. Prince Devarius felt somewhat relieved. A small part of his mind was expecting her to delay the attack on Northgard and focus on Thusia. But on the contrary, she immediately ordered General Bryce to gather the men. "I need to know how many Thusians were stationed at Northgard and who was responsible for the latest atrocities," Gaia said to Yagner and then turned her gaze toward Devarius. "We are not going to take back Northgard. We are going to destroy the Thusians without mercy." "You have a problem with that?" asked Gaia. "I thought you would never ask." Devarius' eyes turned predatory. He followed Gaia outside to leave for Northgard. Gaia didn't wait for General Bryce to finish gathering up the men. Instead, she shot toward the sky with Devarius. The two of them flew toward Northgard. Gaia had to fly slowly to keep up with Devarius. After continuously flying for almost an hour, Gaia and Devarius reached the outskirts of Kingdom Northgard. Bordered between a mountain to the north, a wild ocean to the south, a river to the east, and lush grasslands to the west, the Kingdom of Northgard mainly lived off farming, fishing, and crafting. Northgard itself was mainly covered in hills and had a windy climate. The climate played a big role in farming. Although they didn't produce as much food as Suvan, they produced enough to become a self-sustaining kingdom. The kingdom's landscape was pleasant. Calm lakes, silent mountains, and sapphire lakes were just a sliver of the hidden treasures Northgard had to offer, which was why the kingdom was admired among foreigners. Plus, the people of Northgard were loving towards foreigners and tend to welcome them with goodwill. They felt foreigners could empower the kingdom's well-being. Despite the snowfall, Devarius could still see dark smoke coming from the village on the horizon. This was one of the villages Booth chose to burn to the ground. "I am sorry for what happened there, but I'd suggest we strike the capital before the Thusians cause more destruction," said Gaia. It took Devarius a few moments to come out of his sorrow. "I used to play here," Devarius said with a heavy heart. His voice stuttered because of the sadness in his heart. "Why did they have to do this?" asked Devarius. "Because the Thusians wants to break your spirit. As long as you fight for freedom, they can't control the kingdom as they like. They sent a message, and now it's our turn to respond. Let's head toward the capital," said Devarius. He didn't even bother to doubt Gaia whether she could fight an entire army or not. They were about to leave for the capital when she saw a group of Thusian soldiers flying toward the village. This group contained 6 men. Since each of them was flying on a sword, Gaia was able to tell they weren't at the core formation stage yet. Bastards! Devarius roared. He didn't even wait for Gaia's order as he dashed toward them. Devarius' speed was several times faster than the rest. The Thusians were startled by the sudden appearance of Devarius. The soldier who led the group lost his balance when he saw Devarius out of the blue. Fuck! Holy! The soldiers panicked. The scream of their leader was still echoing through the air. Everything seemed tiny from their view, so anyone could imagine what would happen to their leader when he hit the ground. But Devarius was not in the mood for imagination. He grabbed two soldiers by their necks and squeezed them till their faces turned purple. The others were too shocked to react in time. While Devarius was squeezing the life out of two soldiers, Gaia fired a normal iron arrow at a soldier who was trying to escape. The arrow penetrated his left thigh. Blood spurted out of his leg as the soldier screamed. Devarius didn't even blink an eye. The light of life slowly left the soldier's eyes. Among the 6, 1 fell to death, 2 were losing their lives slowly, and 1 was barely keeping himself on the sword. This left 2 soldiers unscathed. They looked at each other with pale faces. They trembled. Unlike Bood's general, these 6 were just foot soldiers. They were trained to look for any survivors in the villages and not to fight people like Gaia or Devarius. Finally, Devarius ended the 2 soldiers' suffering by snapping their necks. The 2 standing behind the dead soldiers panicked. Their minds went blank. They were about to turn around and leave when Devarius punched them with enough force to put a hole through their chests. Blood spattered on Devarius' face, painting it red. Gaia grabbed the one with an arrow sticking out of his leg. She lifted him up in the air as the sword fell down. He frantically squirmed in her hand. "You have 5 seconds to tell us who did this," Gaia pointed at the burnt village on the ground. 1, 2, I don't know. The soldier cried. 3, 4, Gaia continued to count. The moment the count reached 5, Gaia let go of his collar. Ah! The soldier screamed, falling down from the sky. Gaia dived down and caught the soldier in the midway. The soldier's face was drenched in sweat. Devarius could hear the soldier's heart pounding against his chest. "Next time I won't catch you," Gaia threatened the soldier. "It's General Booth and his men." The soldier screamed without a second thought. He ordered his men to burn some villages and take hostage a few. "We were just sent here to look for any survivors." "I swear I don't know anything else," the soldier cried. "Ah!" The soldier screamed as Gaia let go of his collar. Chapter 725. Don't lose your shit when we are in the capital. "Can you do that and follow my orders?" asked Gaia. Devarius nodded his head. The 2 of them began to head toward the capital. "What that bastard Booth was doing here?" Devarius growled. He could have sent his men to do all this. Why was he here? Devarius pondered. "Maybe he needed a win after what we did to the Golden Port," said Gaia. Eventually, after almost 2 hours, they arrived at the capital of Northgard. The capital was built amidst the gentle snows of a pristine tundra. It was truly an elegant wonder. Its grace was matched by the backdrop of modest hills, which had helped shape the city to flourish. The climate these hills brought were of great importance, but they were also influential when it came to architectural designs, as the vast majority of buildings have been built in shapes and with elements of the hills around them. The city was littered with various buildings, and their beauty was only matched by each other. Before the war, trade was at an all-time high in the capital. It had drawn a lot of attention, including King Maxim Barnes. Over time, new cultures left their mark not just on the city's people but also on the city's identity. Unlike any other cities or kingdom in the Azer continent, Kingdom Northgard and its capital had the highest number of other races. It was this multicultural identity that had truly left its mark. Hundreds of shops, inns, and ethnic restaurants offer a plethora of culinary choices. Those who would feel hungry for something else could enjoy nature, one of the many natural wonders, lakes, or peaceful grass fields. At that moment, the capital seemed gloomy. Gaia could barely see any people on the streets, which were completely blanketed by knee-high snow. Seeing the sorry state of the capital ached Devarius' heart. He saw his family's castle on top of the hill, covered in snow. He was tempted to visit the castle. We would have welcomed the Thusians with open arms. We were a peaceful kingdom, Devarius' voice stuttered. It's our fault for not being strong enough to protect our people, Devarius blamed himself. No. The Thusians were just stronger. Plus, no matter what, Maxim would have always tried to take over your kingdom, said Gaia. Why? Trade, Gaia simply said. Suvan is the fruit basket of the continent. Zulon has mines. Ithilin is an impenetrable nature fortress. Gaia didn't say anything about the existence of the cosmic stream in Ithilin. And Northgard, he targeted it for trade. A trade that would take a year through the Golden Port could be made in 3 or 4 months through Northgard. Besides, the only bridge to reach Ithilin by land is connected to Northgard. Her words made perfect sense to Devarius. Ithilin people may have accepted the Thusians and even celebrated King Maxim, but the Northgard people had rooted pride. They would never accept the Thusians. As long as they resisted the Thusians, they would continue to suffer. The only way to end this was killing Maxim Barnes. What's the plan, General Elia? Asked Devarius. It's getting repetitive. We go to a place, kill the army stationed there and take over the place. Rinse and repeat, Gaia sighed. So what do you suggest we do? We can't rush into the city anyways. We still have no idea where the Thusians are keeping the villagers they captured. Go get captured. The odds are the Thusians will put you with the rest of your people and try to break their spirit, said Gaia. Devarius frowned. How do you plan on finding me? Asked Devarius. He saw Gaia tossing a silver coin toward him. Swallow that. What? Devarius was taken aback by surprise. Swallow the coin. It will reveal your location to me. Don't bother to learn how that works. Gaia shook her head. She chuckled inside, seeing Devarius actually swallow the coin. The coin had nothing special about it as Devarius thought. When she tossed the coin toward him, she also threw a spider onto him. But Devarius focused on the coin and missed the spider crawling onto his robes. I will know when you're with your people. Try not to get yourself killed, said Gaia. With a nod, Devarius flew toward the capital. Gaia noticed a Thusian patrol on the street. Devarius descended toward them. I hate patrolling in this weather. Shut up, Marcus. If you had controlled your lust, we wouldn't be here. Oh, come on. Don't blame me. I haven't felt a touch of a woman in 6 months. So bite me, like you bit that girl in the butt. Fuck you. The soldiers patrolled the streets, arguing and laughing at each other. However, their laughter was short-lived. They felt a chill as soon as they saw Devarius in front of them. Freeze! The soldiers screamed. To their surprise, Devarius raised his arms up in the air. Holy fuck! Is that Prince Devarius? It's him. Don't move. The soldiers panicked but didn't run away. Without making any sudden move, Devarius slowly knelt down on the snow. You go and inform the general. Well, take him to the special place. These were the last words Devarius heard before everything went dark. The last thing he saw was the bottom of the soldier's sword. He felt a sharp pain before collapsing to the ground. From the sky, Gaia saw the soldiers knock out Devarius cold and drag his body through the snow. She slowly followed the soldiers. After an unknown amount of time, Devarius woke up in a dimly lit room. He heard water trickling down, drop by drop. He looked around to see nothing but muddy walls. The air smelled like blood and piss. He could move neither his hands nor legs. When he looked down at his feet, he noticed iron shackles around them. He shook the iron shackles, yet they didn't come out as he expected. Your Royal Highness. Suddenly, Devarius heard a whisper. He turned his head in the voice's direction. In the dim light, he saw a man behind bars a few meters away from him. Shit, they caught you, the man sighed. Devarius couldn't see the man's features very clearly due to the darkness in the area. He could only vaguely see the man's torn dress and messy brown hair. Are you alone? Asked Prince Devarius. I am with the people in my village. Your Royal Highness, you must save us. Grandpa Eddie is dying. We can't breathe here, the man's voice stuttered. Judging by the tone of his voice, Devarius could tell he was exhausted beyond words. First, you have to relax. What's your name? Alex, the man replied. Alex, relax. I am here to get you all out of here, but how? You're stuck here, just like the rest of us, said Alex. I have a plan, but I need you with me, all right? Alex did not respond for a few moments. Alex, you're with me? Asked Devarius. Yes. Yes, Your Royal Highness. I just want to get out of here. I can't stay here for long. I am losing my mind, Alex cried. His sobbing startled Devarius. He wondered what kind of torture Alex would have gone through to make a grown man like him sob like a child. Manger boiled within Devarius. All of this suffering because of the Thusians. The hatred toward Thusians grew bigger by the second in Devarius' heart. I'm going to get you all out of here, okay? I promise. He will come. He will come. Oh my God. He will be here soon. Alex cried out loud. He suddenly panicked for no reason. To Devarius' surprise, Alex tried to bend the metal bars with his hands. Alex was so desperate to get out as he began to bite the bars. Who is he? Asked Devarius. However, Alex didn't respond to Devarius. Instead, he kept trying to bend and bite the bars. Devarius looked behind Alex to find another saner villager. Alex, get your shit together, man, Devarius growled. The sound of Alex's groan was interrupted by several heavy footsteps. As soon as Alex heard the footsteps, he frantically crawled back into the darkest corner of his cell. Devarius leaned back, waiting for the soldiers to approach him. I hope you come to my rescue again, General, Devarius mumbled under his breath. Soon, Devarius saw several shadows in the dim light. They slowly made their way toward the cells. Here he is, my lord, Devarius heard some voices. Unfortunately, he couldn't see their faces in the dim light. A group of soldiers opened the iron door to his cell. Thanks to the torches in their arms, Devarius finally saw their faces. Although he recognized none of them, the blonde-haired youngster in fancy robes seemed familiar for some reason. The soldiers around the youngster were armed to the teeth. It was apparent to Devarius that this guy was someone important. The Prince of Northgard. How the mighty fall, the youngster chuckled. He approached Devarius step by step. Devarius wanted to slap that smirk off of his face. You know, my soldiers told me you surrendered yourself. Now here's my question, why would a rebel like you surrender yourself without a fight? The youngster stared at Devarius from head to toe with his hazel eyes. For some reason, the youngster smelled like blood. I think you are planning something, the youngster exclaimed. Now here's the deal. I don't have the time or the brain to figure out your plans. So I am going to go into the next cell and start taking heads one by one until I hear your plans. Devarius remained silent as the young man turned around and left his cell. As he said this to Devarius, he ordered his men to open the cell where Devarius saw Alex. Devarius heard the villagers groan as though they were unable to speak. No, Alex screamed. Devarius gritted his teeth. It'd be a good time for you to show up, Elia, mumbled Devarius. Meanwhile, the youngster chose his target. It was an old man who looked as thin as a stick. The youngster dragged the old man by his neck until Devarius was able to see him clearly. The young man unsheathed his sword from the sheath dangling on his waist. He raised the sword in the air. Wait, Devarius shouted as the young man stopped his swing just a few inches away from the old man's neck. Diddle diddle. A sweet voice echoed through the underground. The soldier immediately tensed up. A smile formed on Devarius' face, seeing a shadow of a girl in the walls. Who is that? The young man asked his men. The footsteps sounded louder and louder with the passing seconds. You wanted to know about my plan, right? This is it, Devarius laughed. Chapter 726, We Are So Little, Gaia's voice echoed through the cave. The soldier who went to check on her came flying. He left a trail of blood on his way. Devarius saw blood splatter on the metal walls and the iron bars. The soldier didn't even scream. He looked closer at the body to see a hole in his chest. Following the soldier's body, something else came flying. The youngster reacted, quickly catching the object. But when he saw the thing in his heart, his face lost its color. A bloody heartbeat in his hand. It took the heart a minute to finally stop beating. "She is going to kill you all, and it won't be pretty," Devarius laughed. The soldiers around the young man panicked. Her shadow grew closer and closer to them. The youngster lost interest in the old man. He threw him away. "How did she get in here?" the soldiers mumbled. "Who is she?" asked another soldier. They prepared themselves for a fight. Finally, Devarius saw Elia stepping out of the darkness into the light. Blood trickled down from her fist. She crackled her neck. "Nice place for a prison," Gaia said, looking around. "Go kill her." The young man pushed a soldier in her direction. The poor soldier panicked. Still, he obeyed his order. None of them could tell how strong she was. However, Gaia soon answered their question by grabbing the soldier by his neck and snapping it without breaking a sweat. She tossed the soldier's body aside like trash. Seeing her kill the soldier so effortlessly, the soldier freaked out. Although they had numbers, none thought they could take on the girl. "Who the fuck are you?" Gaia asked the youngster. She slowly stepped toward him through the muddy floor. But when she was just a couple of meters away from the young man, a cage dropped from above out of nowhere, enclosing her within. Devarius' bright grin froze on his face. Even Gaia was surprised. The iron bars glowed as countless intricate runes radiated faint red light. "Gotcha, bitch," the young man exclaimed. The soldiers around him were bewildered. Gaia stood within the cage without moving an inch. She tried to grab the bar, but the moment she touched the glowing bars, they burned her hands. The golden-haired young man stepped forward with a bright smile. He walked around the cage for a few moments. He enjoyed seeing Gaia trapped within the cage. Gaia looked above at the ceiling to see several runes glistening. Bright beams of light shot from each rune, forming the cage around her. For some reason, she quickly thought of Edith when she saw the runes. A bolt of energy shot her in the chest when she tried to cast a spell. "Don't bother," the young man said. He was extremely proud of his achievement here. His glimmered with arrogance and pride. Despite his core strengthening stage cultivation, he was able to trap a fusion stage cultivator. He couldn't wait to show this gift to his uncle. Seeing Gaia trapped in the cage, Devarius was speechless. The light of hope in his heart slowly faded away. "You didn't expect this, did you?" asked the young man. "We were expecting you. But thank you for bringing us the prince. He's a cherry on top of a delicious cake like you." The youngster licked his lips. "Why are you being silent? I won't hurt you, at least not yet. After the shit you pulled in the Golden Port, could you blame us for wanting to rip you to shreds?" The young man said while walking around the cage. Gaia remained calm despite her situation. "Who are you, bastard?" Devarius shouted. He thought distracting the young man might give Elia a chance to break out of the cage. Instead, the young man signaled his lackey, wordlessly telling him to shut Devarius up. The young man was no longer interested in Devarius. He caught a bigger fish. "Are you wondering the same?" asked the young man. "I don't give a fuck who you are. You're gonna die anyways." After seeing Gaia getting trapped inside the cage, the soldiers gained courage and valor. They all had a smirk on their faces. Devarius saw a soldier walking toward him, cracking his knuckles. The moment the soldier arrived in front of Devarius, the soldier punched Devarius in the face. "You punch like a little girl," Devarius spat the blood out. The soldier punched Devarius again with more force behind his fist. "The woman in my kingdom punches harder than you," Devarius ridiculed the soldier. The soldier trembled in a fury. He started to punch Devarius left and right without giving him time to say a word. Blood and saliva spattered out of Devarius' face. The soldier did not stop until Devarius' face almost doubled up in size. His face was swollen and became unrecognizable. The soldier massaged his fists. "I hope he didn't kill him," the young man pouted. "You see that?" He pointed his finger at Devarius. "That's just the tip of the iceberg compared to what's going to happen to you. Since you're a nice-looking girl, we might not rough you up like him." To the young man's surprise, Gaia laughed. "What's so funny?" asked the young man. "Almost everyone who speaks like you dies in the end. Don't you get it, asshole?" You're just a cog in the machine I'm going to crush. If you have any desire to live, I'd suggest you drop everything and run away from here as fast as you can, said Gaia. Noon replied to Gaia for a moment. Once again, silence haunted the place until the young man chuckled. You are indeed a crazy bitch. Open your eyes. You're the one inside the cage. Or do you think we are inside a cage because of the iron bars between us? The soldiers laughed at his joke, which made the young man laugh louder. My uncle is going to love this bitch, the young man told his soldiers. Gaia frowned. Seeing the frown on her face, the young man tilted his head. Oh, where are my manners? I am Kevin Kemper, nephew of the one and only Booth Kemper, the Duke of Valeria, and the general of the Thusian army. The young man puffed his chest and introduced himself with immense pride. Gaia simply couldn't believe his words. She thought the cage surprised her before she heard the young man. Jackpot, Gaia smiled with excitement. The smile on Gaia's face confused Kevin. Why are you smiling again? Asked Kevin. You knocked him out and revealed your identity. That's so. Gaia couldn't finish her sentence as she burst into laughter. You so unlucky and stupid. Gaia barely finished off her sentence. But suddenly her laughter stopped. Instead, her face turned cold. The temperature in the room dropped by several degrees. To Kevin's surprise, her eyes glistened. The round pupils turned vertically slit in a blink of an eye. The snake-like eyes freaked out the soldiers. My lord, look, one soldier whispered to Kevin. He looked at Gaia's hands as violet scales appeared on her skin. Kevin immediately took a step back when she hissed at him. Gaia grabbed the iron bars. Just like before, the runes burned her hands. However, Gaia did not let go of the bars. She roared, splitting the iron bars apart. The runes in the bars flickered, radiating faint rumbling noise. Stop her, Kevin ordered his men. The haughtiness in his tone completely disappeared. Instead, he trembled in fear. The soldiers were no different than Kevin. They all inhaled the fear toxin released by Gaia. Arg! Gaia roared, bending the iron bars with her raw strength despite the runes burning her hand. In a few moments, she bent the iron bars enough for her to slide through. Kevin saw a giant cobra sliding through the iron bars for a second. But that image of the cobra in his mind disappeared as fast as it appeared. What are you? Kevin questioned Gaia. The soldiers behind him took a step backward. They no longer had the courage to face Gaia anymore. Gaia did not answer Kevin. Instead, she grabbed him by his neck and lifted him off his feet. Gaia kept Kevin in the air without uttering a word. Meanwhile, the fear toxin took full effect on the soldiers. Since the soldiers weren't even at the core strengthening stage, their bodies and minds couldn't withstand the effects of the fear toxin. They soon began to hallucinate and cry. Finally, they collapsed to the ground and crawled back in fear. Their screams echoed through the silent underground. Even Kevin's body began to shiver as white foam leaked out of his mouth. Does your uncle love you? Gaia asked Kevin. How much he loves you. He will hunt you down if something happens to me. Kevin managed to utter these words. Good. Saves us the trouble of finding him, Gaia snicked. Kevin's face slowly turned purple due to the lack of oxygen in his head. Some of the villagers who witnessed the soldiers scratching the walls to escape the place looked bewildered. They wondered who the girl was and how did she come here. Gaia didn't bother to think about the villagers. All of her focus was on Kevin. From a few meters away from Gaia, Davarius slowly opened his eyes. His head ached because of the beating he had taken a few minutes ago. Thanks to the beating he took, his vision was still blurry. However, he could vaguely see Ilya out of the cage. To his shock, the youngster was struggling in her hand. No, please don't hurt me, let us go. No! The soldiers cried and screamed. Fear had completely taken over their minds. Davarius could hear their cries but didn't feel a bit of pity for them. While Gaia was dealing with Kevin, a youngster was flying in the sky as fast as a bolt of lightning. His white robes, along with his raven-black hair, fluttered in the wind. His calm eyes glistened like bright stars in pitch-black sky. But behind those calm eyes, there was concern and unease. Around him was an endless ocean. Then, after flying for an unknown amount of time, finally, an island appeared on the horizon. "That's the Rainbow Island," said the young man in white robes. "And that's where I sense this weird energy," another voice sounded in the air. Chapter 727. Noah hovered in the sky, looking at the Rainbow Island on the horizon. For some reason, he had a bad feeling in his gut. "Noah, why are you waiting here?" Noah heard Andreas' voice in his head. "I have some bad feelings about this," said Noah. "Me too," said Andreas. "That weird energy. I haven't felt something like that ever before." Noah was on his way to meet Alicia when Andreas sensed something. He immediately ordered Noah to follow his directions. Truth be told, Noah had never seen his teacher shocked like this. So Noah did not waste any time as he did what he was told to. To his surprise, Andreas led to the outskirts of the Rainbow Islands. "We don't have all day, Noah," said Andreas. With a nod, Noah flew forward toward the island. To Noah's shock, he saw Narada and Johanna on the ground, unconscious. He felt some strange energy fluctuations in the air. Judging by the look of the ground, Noah could tell a decisive battle had occurred here. Noah quickly landed beside Johanna and Narada. "Miss Johanna, Mas Narada," Noah called out to them. He gently shook their shoulders, but they didn't respond. Noah placed his finger on their necks, sensing their pulses. Fortunately, they were alive. Noah was about to retrieve healing potions from his space ring when Andreas materialized before him. "Don't wake them up. I sense something inside. Let's go check first." "What about them?" "They can tell us what happened here once we wake them up," said Noah, "and might stop us from investigating the place." "You know I am right, so come." Andreas gestured at Noah to stand up and follow him into the cave. Having no choice, Noah followed behind Andreas. The place looked somewhat different than the last time Noah visited. He met Layla to give her the Witcher stone. While walking into the cave, Noah noticed countless scribbles on the wall. They all looked weird and quirky, like a child's painting. The further he walked into the cave, the more Noah felt the strange energy in the air. Andreas and Noah made their way forward in silence. "What in the hell is that?" asked Andreas, looking at the glimmering tear in the space itself. The tear pulled both of them into it. Noah resisted the pull as Andreas moved closer to inspect it. "A realm tear," said Andreas. "Something happened here." "No shit," said Noah with a hint of sarcasm in his tone. Noah joined Andreas in front of the realm tear. This was the first time Noah had seen one. "Is it like a portal?" asked Noah. He was tempted to touch and look through the tear, but he controlled himself. No. The very fabrics of space and time itself had been torn by something. "We need to know what happened here." Andreas' voice became extremely grave. "Then we have to wake those two up. They can give us the answers we want," Noah suggested. "Yeah, but let's look around first. I have a feeling our friend Layla was hiding something big in here." Andreas began to float around the cave. Noah lit all the torches hanging on the walls with a snap of his finger. He brought the light back to the cave. They were able to see things more clearly in the light. Noah saw candles, meditation mats, books, and a few scrolls in the cave. As he was looking around the cave, he was taken aback when he saw a cradle in the corner of the cave. "This is getting interesting." Andreas floated toward the cradle. Noah followed Andreas behind. The walls behind the cradle had lots of scribbles of a child. Ouch! Noah jumped as a bolt of electricity ran through his body when he touched the cradle. "It zapped me." Noah rubbed his palm. But when Andreas' ghostly hand touched the cradle, Andreas' whole body shivered. He immediately closed his eyes, feeling a powerful, strange energy around the cradle. In his entire life, he had only experienced this feeling one time. He thought he had forgotten this feeling, but the answer was no. It was so long ago as Andreas almost forgot. "Teacher," Noah called out to Andreas. He waited for Andreas to open his eyes. "A spirit child," mumbled Andreas. A spirit child was here. Noah was no stranger to the concept of a spirit child. Andreas made Noah read thousands of books. Thus, Noah knew quite a lot. Noah frowned. A spirit child was created when a male cultivator's soul walked a female cultivator, which was a forbidden act. It was equal to forcing oneself on someone. The Witcher Stone, Noah mumbled. When he gave Layla a Witcher Stone, Noah didn't know why she needed a Witcher Stone, at least, he didn't know at that time. However, recently Noah discovered a piece of Andreas' soul and helped his mentor absorb this soul piece. As a result, Andreas regained more knowledge and memories. Noah learned that a Witcher Stone was to give a physical body to a spirit child in a ritual, along with some other things. Everything else could be obtained relatively easier, but not the Witcher Stone. I can't believe it, Noah shook his head. He simply couldn't believe someone has soul-walked Layla. She was a fusion stage cultivator. Noah couldn't name a single person who was strong enough to touch Layla, let alone soul-walk her. The strange energy, the scribbles on the wall, the Witcher Stone, it all makes sense, Andreas said slowly. A spirit child was here. There's no mistaking it. Noah couldn't disagree with his mentor. As Andreas said, everything made sense, pointing toward the existence of a child in the cave. Search the place, Andreas ordered Noah. After learning about the spirit child, Noah doubted Narrated and Johanna would be much help to him. He was sure they would hide the child's existence. Light of truth, Noah closed his eyes, casting a spell. A bright wave of light washed over the cave. Noah slowly opened his eyes. His gaze turned his head to the side, glancing at the wall. In his view, he saw a glimmer of light inside the wall. He walked toward the glimmer as Andreas followed him behind. When Noah reached the wall, he ran his hand through the wall. It's hollow, Noah knocked on the wall. Andreas heard a light thud sound. Noah gently rubbed his hand through the wall until he found a tiny hole. Noah's finger didn't fit the hole. So he picked up a quill from his space ring and stuck the quill into the hole. Noah heard a crack as a piece of wall fell down, revealing a brick-sized hollow within the wall. Inside it, Noah found a tiny book. Under Andreas' gaze, Noah opened the book. The first page of the book contained scribbles and various shapes. He turned the page one by one until he saw some words. Today, Mother taught me how to read and write. She seemed so happy when I wrote my first word, Mother. Noah read the words. Sister Narita said if I feel lonely, I can write whatever I want in a book and keep it safe. So here I am, writing something. Noah read these words on the next page. He turned another page and saw something about the food. Noah felt bad for reading someone else's journal, especially a child's. But he hoped this journal might reveal something about the realm tear. If this child was capable of tearing the realm itself, Noah needed to know everything about it before the child could cause more harm. Today, I asked Mother about father. I learned from Sister Johanna that every child has a father. Mother did not answer me. But when I met Sister Johanna later, her eyes were puffy. I think Mother scolded her. What? Why can't Mother tell me who my father is? Noah read the words. Afterward, Noah turned the pages one by one but didn't find anything valuable. Instead, he saw the child's day-to-day life, nothing interesting. I heard Mother talking to someone about a fight in a place called Holy Church. She was worried and didn't say a word. I know my mother is not a very talkative person, but this silence was new to me. I can see it in her eyes. She is worried sick. How old is this child? His words sound mature for a child who learned to read and write recently. Andreas wondered about the child. Fight in the Holy Church? Do you think he's talking about the battle between the Dark Lord and Ghost? Asked Noah. I can't say no for certain. Andreas shook his head as Noah continued to read the child's journal. Yesterday, I had this weirdest dream. Before I went to bed, I asked Mother about father once again. As usual, Mother didn't say a word. She just said it's better if I don't know who my father is. I disagree. I want to meet him. I was thinking about father and I had a dream. I was floating in the sky. It was night, I think. Everything was dark. I called for Mother, but no one heard me. Then I saw someone. He was talking to a snake. Strange, isn't it? Unfortunately, I couldn't see his face. I tried to approach him, but I was unable to move my body. The snake in his hand looked right at me. For some reason, I had a feeling this snake wanted me to get away from the man. It felt so real. Now I can't help but think whether this dream is a sign. Sister Narita and Johanna always told me I am special. If I am special, is there any chance this dream is a sign? Could he be my father? After Noah finished reading everything the child wrote about his dream, Andreas had a deep frown on his ghostly face. Noah turned another couple of pages, hoping to find out more about the child's dream and his father. Okay, I know this is going to sound weird, but I had another weird dream yesterday after I asked Mother about Father. The only difference this time was I saw an island. It was on fire. The man I saw in my previous dream was there with his snake. It was laughing at the burning island. Why do I have this kind of dream every time I ask about my father? Now I can't stop believing the man in my dream, and my father has some kind of connection. Is this kid having nightmares, or does his dreams really have some meaning? Noah asked Andreas. There are many types of dreams. Some might give a glimpse of the future, and some might show us what we desire deep down. This child wants to see its father. So it might be dreaming about him. But I have a feeling his dreams have some kind of meaning, Noah said, turning the pages. I can't believe what I saw in my dreams today. I saw the man again in my dreams. This time, there was no darkness. I saw him floating in the air without the snake. I wanted to talk to him, but when I approached him, he turned the day into night. I'm not going to hide my dreams anymore. When Mother returns, I will tell her about them. Noah read the words. He turned the pages, but they were empty. We need to find this child. Noah and Andreas said these words simultaneously. Chapter 728. Noah and Andreas rushed out of the cave. After reading the journal, they both had a grave feeling in their guts. This time, Andreas did not stop Noah from giving the two girls healing potions. Noah squatted beside Narita and Johanna. He gently opened their mouths and poured the healing potion into their mouth. As the healing potion trickled down into the throat, rosiness returned to their faces. Narita groaned. Johanna managed to open her eyes slowly. The moment realization hit Johanna, her eyes went wide. She almost jumped to her feet. Where is he? Johanna didn't even say anything to Noah. Instead, she rushed into the cave. Narita followed her behind. Are you thinking what I am thinking? Andreas asked Noah. The man who turned the day into night. Noah mumbled. The Dark Lord, Andreas said with a grave tone. The mere mention of the name made Andreas tremble in fear. We can't tell that for sure. As far as we know, it might just be a dream, said Noah. However, he didn't believe it to be the truth. Noah just didn't want to jump to conclusions based on a child's dream and a journal. Come on, Noah. Deep down you feel it. The question is, who is the Dark Lord to the child? Noah remained silent with a deep frown on his face. The Dark Lord certainly has some hold on the child. We need to find the child before the Dark Lord does. Where is the child? Noah turned around, hearing Johanna's roar. She dashed at Noah and grabbed Noah's collar. I just came here and saw the two of you unconscious, said Noah. Tell us what happened so I can help you. Who was here? Who knocked you out? Noah questioned Narita and Johanna. Narita and Johanna did not answer Noah. Instead, Noah saw their eyes tearing up. I know about the spirit child. As soon as the two girls heard Noah, their hearts skipped a beat. Johanna's hands fell down, letting go of Noah's collars. If the child isn't inside, whoever knocked you out must have taken it, said Noah. We need to find that child, Noah. Noah heard Andreas panic. Johanna and Narita looked at each other. They were about to turn around and head out of the island to find the child when Noah stopped them. A child is in danger, and you two want to keep its existence a secret? Let me help you. Johanna and Narita stopped on their steps. You don't have much time. Where are you going to search? Don't be stupid. A child's life is in danger, for God's sake. If Layla wants to punish me after I find the child, she is welcome to do so. Now tell me what happened here. Noah's tone became dominant. His godly aura made Narita and Johanna tremble. They couldn't resist trusting Noah. If the Dark Lord's aura made the others scared, Noah's aura influenced others to trust in him. Johanna and Narita couldn't think straight. The disappearance of the child made their minds go blank. Tears rolled out of their eyes as the two began to tell Noah what had happened earlier. Although they accepted the existence of the spirit child, they did not reveal anything about how it came to this world or anything related to its power. When they finished their story, Noah took a deep breath. "If we find who attacked you, we will find the child," said Noah. "We must tell the mistress," said Narita. "One of you must stay on the island in case someone else comes here. I will use my contacts in the guild to find the child." "No!" Johanna shouted. "You cannot tell anyone about the child. I will just tell them I am searching for a normal child, not a spirit child." After leaving the island, Noah headed straight toward the Osier continent. "Any plan on how to find the child?" asked Andreas. "If we can find who attacked them, we can find the child." "How do you plan to do that?" "Layla wouldn't have told many about the child. I don't believe the two men who attacked the girls happened to stumble upon the child. They knew a child was living there. So the one who took the child must be someone who knew about the child. First, I need to know everyone Layla told about the child. It can't be a long list. Those girls have no clue about where Layla is," said Andreas. "But I know someone who might have, Edith, your sweetheart." Even in a situation like this, Andreas managed to find humor. Noah heard his teacher chuckle. However, Noah was not in the mood for fun. On the contrary, he was pretty serious. "Teacher, what if the Dark Lord was the child's father?" Noah hoped Andreas would say no. Unfortunately, Andreas remained silent for a few moments. "I believe so." On contrary to what Noah wished for, Andreas agreed with Noah's feelings. Although Noah had this feeling that the Dark Lord was the child's father, his heart refused to believe so. Noah knew better than anyone what would happen to the child and Layla if the Dark Lord was the child's father. The Skyhull and the Guardian Guild would nail the mother and child as punishment. Noah never wanted innocent people like Layla and the child to get punished because of the Dark Lord. After all, the child did no wrong. The Dark Lord is evil, Noah. No one would have chosen to soul-walk someone except him. But we must know whether Layla knew of this or not. If she knew about the Dark Lord and didn't report to the guild, she have to be treated as an accomplice. What about the child? Until we know the full extent of its powers, we have to keep the child safe from the outside world. You mean keeping the child locked up? Noah frowned. As much as Noah wanted to put an end to the Dark Lord threat, he didn't like to sacrifice innocent people in the process. He learned the cost of taking a life the hard way. To be honest, it had been months since Noah slept peacefully. Every time he closed his eyes, he could see the children crying for their parents, who Noah had killed. Noah used to kill people who tried to kill him. This was a dog-eat-dog world. Only ruthless and heartless people could survive. Noah used to be one in such a world until he saw the aftermath of each life he took. With every man Noah killed, the number of orphans went up. It was one of the many reasons why Noah stopped taking lives. Instead of getting used to a cruel world, Noah wanted to change it. Even though it meant fighting the whole world, Noah was ready for it. It's the spawn of the Dark Lord, Noah. It might be an innocent child now, but soon, the Dark Lord's blood within the child will corrupt it. We can't take the risk of letting tiny Dark Lord run around, but teacher, I won't let the guild or anyone hurt the child until it stays innocent. If it gets corrupted by the Dark Lord as you said, we will take care of it, Noah firmly said. I may have taught you too well, Noah, Andreas sighed, but he was extremely proud of Noah. While Noah was on his way to the Azer continent, General Booth was in his room. A bright smile was plastered on his face due to Zachary and Austin's successful mission. Booth emptied a glass full of wine in a single gulp. Got you, fucker, Booth grinned. He cursed Ghost and poured another glass of wine. Your Grace, Booth heard his maid knocking on the ground. Enter, sweetie. Booth welcomed the maid into the room with an ear-to-ear grin. He started taking off his robes, preparing to feast on his beautiful maid. But his hand stopped when he saw a wooden box in his maid's hands. On top of the wooden box, he saw a scroll. Your Grace, this is addressed to you. Our rune masters checked it for explosions, but they said it's clear. Did they open it? Asked Booth with a frown. They couldn't, Your Grace. They said it requires your fingerprint to open the box and this scroll. The maid put the box on the table. Looking at the box, the lust in Booth's eyes faded away. You can leave, Booth dismissed the maid. After she left him alone in the room with the box and the scroll, Booth slowly grabbed the scroll. As soon as his hand touched the scroll, several runes glowed on its surface. Booth opened the scroll and read the words. My dead Booth, the last time we met, you gave me a gift I cannot forget as long as I am alive. So I thought I should return the favor. Unfortunately, it was nowhere close to the gift you gave me, but I tried my best and am still working on other gifts for you. I hope it puts a smile on your face. I really wish I was there to see your smile. Your best friend, Ghost Aabras. The moment Booth's eyes fell on the last words, he clenched his fist until his nails began to penetrate his skin. Blood trickled down from his palm. Shockingly, Booth's hands shivered slightly. He slowly touched the wooden box to open it. Just like the scroll, the box lit up when he touched it. A cracking sound resonated from within as though a hidden lock had been unlocked by his touch. Booth slowly opens the top of the box. To his shock, a bloody head was inside it. Booth's eyes turned red almost immediately as he picked up the head. Kevin, Booth mumbled. He closed Kevin's eyes. Judging by the terror in Kevin's eyes, Booth could tell what he must have gone through in the last moments of his life. Booth couldn't stop his body from trembling in anger. He wanted to destroy everything in the room. Although Booth and Kevin didn't share a strong bond, Kevin was still his family. He had known Kevin since he was little. The fact that someone else had tortured Kevin, cut his head, and dared to send it in a box made Booth's blood boil. Ghost! Booth roared as the table before him, and the box exploded into pieces. Chapter 729, Your Grace. The maid entered the room after a while. Booth put the head back in the box and summoned Edith. Miss Edith is waiting for you, said the maid. But let her in, Booth ordered the maid. Despite what happened, Booth didn't show any anger in his tone. As you wish, Your Grace. The maid bowed and left the room. Booth silently waited for Edith, staring at the snow-covered city through the window. The people of Valeria had no worries with their guardians looking over them. Unlike the other parts of Azair, the war didn't touch the land of Valeria. Booth was a great general and even greater duke than many had expected. His ruthlessness, coupled with King Maxim's financial support, turned once ordinary duchy into an extraordinary place. Many Thusians preferred to live in Valeria more than even Diamond Valley. But Booth knew the tranquility he sees is temporary. The moment Ghost stepped into his duchy, it would be thrown into war. Ghost could attack them in an all-out war. Instead, he was taking his time, just like Booth did to the sanctuary. It was not an understatement to say the majority of the Thusians were terrified, including the royal family. The last time Booth met Queen Valeria, she seemed as graceful and courageous as before, yet Booth could see the fear in her eyes. The loss they suffered in the Golden Port battle was slowly taking effect. Without the Golden Port, they would face hardships in bringing food to survive the winter. If that was not trouble enough, Booth read the reports that Ghost's army was planning to launch a full-scale attack on Northgard. Duke Booth. His train of thought was abruptly stopped by the gentle voice of Edith. Come in, Booth said. He slowly turned around, gesturing for Edith to take a seat before him. I have a gift for you. I received it, but I feel like you also deserve to see it, said Booth. Is that the gift? Edith pointed at the wooden boxes. As a rune master, she could see engraved runes in the wooden box. Yes, nodded Booth. He slowly sat on his chair before sliding the box toward Edith. She took the box in her hand. For a few moments, Edith looked around the box. It felt heavy in her hands. Finally, Edith placed the box on her lap and slowly opened the top. The moment she opened the box, a pungent stench of blood hit her nostrils. Her eyes widened as she felt a chill looking at the severed head. Ah! She threw the box in the air. With a flick of his wrist, Booth controlled the box and made it safely land on it with the head still inside. Edith's face was pale. She breathed heavily. Guess who that is? My nephew Kevin, Booth said without showing any signs of anger in his tone. He went to capture that bitch of a general ghost have with the iron cage you engraved with your runes, Booth said. He was nonchalant. They had to plan ahead for the upcoming battles. By nightfall, Booth arrived at Maxim Barnes Castle. He was welcomed by a group of crimson-red armored soldiers who were armed to the teeth. Powerful mages and archers accompanied the knights. They led Booth to the war room, where he met Princess Victoria. "Your Royal Highness." Booth dropped to his one knee, facing the princess. "Rise, Duke Booth. Please, call me General Booth as you always do, Your Royal Highness." A slight smile emerged on Victoria's face. Only a few people had the ability to make Victoria smile, and Booth was one of them. He practically raised Princess Victoria with her parents. In public, Booth was a stoic general, but when they were in private, Booth was like a doting uncle to Victoria. Simply put, Booth loved Victoria more than he loved anyone in his own family, including Kevin. If Victoria's head was in the box instead of Kevin's, Booth would have gone berserk and destroyed everything in his path. The shoulders are oval, long, and enormous. They were decorated with hundreds of small leather pieces, imitating the scales of reptiles. His arms were protected by chain-mail rear braces which sat well under the shoulder plates. The lower arms were covered by vambraces which had a layer of chain-mail covering the outer sides. The armor's breastplate section was made from many horizontal layers of leather and fur with pointed edges and decoration pieces. It covered everything from the neck down, ending at the groin. He gracefully walked toward the fore. Everyone was able to feel the intense power radiating from the elf. Gordon's jaw dropped a couple of inches when he sensed the elf's cultivation, half-immortal stage level 5. "I heard you have a ghost problem. Yours truly is here to exorcise that ghost back to the hell he came from," the elf said with a playful tone. It was obvious the elf wasn't taking ghosts seriously. "General Booth, ministers," Victoria's gaze swept across the trio. "This is Lord Nelder. He's here to help us on behalf of the Guardian Guild." Victoria introduced the elf to everyone in the room. "You got quite the pull to make the board put a high priority mark on Ghost." "I am impressed," Nelder praised Victoria. "The sooner you tell me where Ghost is, the sooner I can get rid of him and go back to my castle," said Nelder. "King Gunnar's castle in Edgerton, Suvan," said Terence. "Wonderful. Should I bring his head, or do you have anything specific in mind?" "This would be a good time for any requests. Just make him suffer for what he did to my soldiers and people," Victoria growled. With a simple nod, Nelder disappeared from the room as fast as he appeared. Gordon exhaled deeply. He felt like he was being crushed by an invisible mountain when Nelder was in the room. After the elf teleported out of the Wuxian castle, the trio continued their battle plans. They didn't completely depend on Nelder to take care of Ghost. "How long till His Majesty comes out of his seclusion?" asked General Booth. 3 more days. I will be with him for the next 3 days. General Booth, please take care of the security. I don't want anything to go wrong during Father's heavenly tribulation. I will guard the two of you with my life, Your Royal Highness," said Booth. "During my absence, guard our cities as much as you can. If everything goes according to the plan, Nelder will take care of Ghost, and everything will go back to the way it was. Otherwise, we have to defend our kingdom till my father comes out of his seclusion." The 3 of them agreed with Victoria with a bow. Although Booth had a backup plan to deal with Ghost in the form of the spirit child, he chose not to share it with Victoria. He didn't want Victoria's soft spot for Edith to come in the way of his plan. If everything fails, the spirit child might be the only way to stop Ghost. While they were discussing their defense plan, they heard someone knocking on the door repeatedly. "Who is there?" Booth asked with a tinge of coldness in his voice. "Your Royal Highness, I have an urgent report," the soldier outside the door exclaimed. Judging by the soldier's tone, Victoria had a feeling something bad had happened. "Enter," said Victoria. After hearing her order, a soldier entered the room. His face was pale and drenched with sweat. He breathed heavily as though he was running for miles. "You're Roy. Skip the pleasantries and tell us what happened," said Victoria, preventing the soldier from addressing them with honorifics. "Something is attacking our soldiers stationed at the Diamond Valley." Victoria and Booth creased their brows. "What do you mean by something?" asked Booth. "We didn't see it clearly, Your Grace." "Please, send backup to the Diamond Valley," the soldier pleaded to Victoria. She quickly turned her gaze toward Terence. "Minister Terence, send a group of soldiers immediately to the Diamond Valley. Before I depart to my father's place, I want to know the full story of what's happening in the Diamond Valley." Chapter 731. The people of Suvan had to stay in their homes instead of roaming outside. The heavy snowfall intensified with each second. It added a grayish foggy glamour to the entire kingdom. The mournful cry of wolves echoed through the vault-still silence of the trees. A huffing wind rose up then, stirring the roofs of the wooden homes. A tinkling sound resonated as the blocks of ice pearls dropped onto the roofs. The sound was like the glassy clinking of a champagne flute, lilting and clear. Even the cultivators felt the bone-chilling coldness in the air. The snowfall passed over us, and the sound intensified. The noise of snow falling was like the fut-fut-fut that ripened nuts make when they hit the ground. It wasn't the soft, sodden, swollen drops of spring but more like ball bearings were hitting the canvas roof with force. One could also hear an occasional kerplunking sound. It was caused by the ice gathered on the tent falling to the ground in a great swash of release. Michael stared at the storm getting worse through the window in his room. The storm didn't rage only outside but also inside of him. He received the news of Spirit Child's disappearance from Azazel. The only silver lining was Azazel told him Noah was on the island and most probably searching for the child. As he was pondering everything, Gaia entered the room. "I heard what happened from Azazel." Gaia grabbed his hand, consoling him. "Do you think we should start searching for the child?" asked Gaia. Michael shook his head. "No," his answer truly surprised Gaia. She expected that even if he didn't personally search for the child, he would ask one of his subordinates to find the child. Contrary to her expectation, Michael outright refused to search for the child. "I didn't drag this battle out to leave everything in the middle. Maxim Barnes is getting closer to triggering his heavenly tribulation. I have a feeling the Thusians took the child to use it as a hostage," said Gaia. "If that's the case, well, find the child soon," said Michael. "But what will you do, Michael? What will you choose, the child or your revenge?" Revenge? Michael didn't even take a few seconds. The hatred ran deep inside Michael to the point he didn't even care about the spirit child. No matter what, he would destroy Thusia. Since Michael told Victoria if she harmed his people in any way, he would reveal the existence of the cosmic stream to the outside world. It was highly unlikely Victoria had something to do with the spirit child's disappearance. She was not stupid enough to jeopardize the cosmic stream. Even King Maxim restricted himself from harming Michael's people in Elon because of Michael's threat. Fortunately, I don't have to choose. I fully believe Noah would save the child. Chapter 732. Diamond Valley was the crown jewel of Ithilien before the Thusians conquered the island. This small valley was named after its famous diamond mine. The name influenced the architects to build most of the buildings in the shape of a diamond. The city itself was bordered by a forest to the north, a large frozen lake to the south, luscious grass fields to the east, and graceful mountains to the west. The people of Diamond Valley mainly lived off working in the diamond mine and crafting jewels using the diamonds they produced. The city's tropical climate and higher living standards made many prefer to live in the Diamond Valley. Most of the veteran soldiers and retired merchants chose Diamond Valley to live their last years because of its beauty and serene atmosphere. Diamond Valley's landscape was pleasing to the eyes. Luscious fields, dramatic mountain views, and jade green fields were just a sliver of brilliance it has to offer. which was the reason the foreigners adored the city like none other. Using the diamond mines, the city prospered. It wouldn't be an understatement to say that Diamond Valley filled the treasury more than the other duchies combined, thanks to the diamond mine. Even the master craftsmen in the R continent preferred to work with the diamonds mined in the Diamond Valley because of their quality. Not a single mine existed in the world that could produce diamonds as quality as the Diamond Valley diamonds. However, only a few knew the secret of the mine. The cosmic stream affected the diamonds in the mine, yet no one knew this, not even the previous kings of Ithilien. Over the years, the cosmic stream slowly ran into the ground, blending with the natural diamond vein in the Diamond Valley. Hence, Diamond Valley had the best diamond mine. The importance of the Diamond Valley was the reason why Terence felt reluctant to take troops away from the duchy. Granted, the Golden Port was valuable, but the Diamond Valley was more important to the Thusian than the Golden Port. Victoria knew they couldn't afford to lose Diamond Valley no matter why. Hence, she put herself on the line to convince Oswald to send an Immortal to deal with Ghost. Of course, Victoria had no intention of marrying Oswald's son. After Ghost's death, she would just order Booth to assassinate Oswald's son and make it look like someone else had done it. Unfortunately for her, Michael also knew the importance of the place. Thus, Michael picked it as his next target instead of attacking the Duchy of Valeria. To be honest, Michael didn't expect Victoria to send a half-immortal this soon. Luckily, Michael always had a plan for almost everything. Initially, Michael wanted to draw the troops away from Diamond Valley to the Golden Port and then attack the valley in full force. To build his army and a stronghold in the southern continent, he needed millions of coins or even billions. Obviously, he wouldn't be able to make money out of his restaurants and majestic stores after revealing his identity. Looting the mines clean and then selling the diamonds would take care of the financial side for some time. Unfortunately, according to the system, absorbing the cosmic energy from the stream would result in the destruction of the diamond vein in the valley. As a result, the mines might explode into pieces. Otherwise, Michael would have taken the Diamond Valley first and found a way to keep the mine to himself. The shield hit the lake below Michael. The water sizzled when the shield fell into it. It took a few minutes for the shield to cool down and return to its metallic black. In the sky, Michael's hand looked crooked. Gritting his teeth, Michael twisted his arm with a sickening crunching sound. The bone returned to its normal state as the APD healed the broken arm in a few seconds. The elf stopped attacking Michael for a few moments. Michael extended his arm toward the lake. A rune on the shield dimly glowed as the shield shot out of the water and flew straight back to Michael's hands. Michael clenched his fist as the shield disappeared into his gauntlet. "The sky is getting darker," said Michael, looking at the stormy clouds gathering above them. "Choosing not to join the council was a mistake, pal," said the elf. "Nah," Michael shook his head. "Choosing to kill me was a mistake," said Michael. Tiny golden bolts of lightning crackled around Michael's fist. They sounded like buzzing bees. Soon, the crackling bolts covered his whole body. He looked like the god of lightning instead of the god of darkness. Unfortunately for the elf, he chose to attack Michael at night time when Michael would be at his strongest. If the night was not enough, the storm made the place darker. As a result, Michael was way out of the elf's league. However, the elf had no clue how strong Michael was. "Whatever. The sooner I kill you, the sooner I can leave this godforsaken place." This time, the elf did not use the energy beam. Instead, he raised his arm in the sky as a trident materialized in his hand. As soon as the silver trident appeared in his hand, several lightning bolts struck the trident from the sky. Soon, the trident sparkled with electric energy. "You're not the only one with the aid of lightning," said the elf. "You have no idea who I am," Michael smiled. When Michael retrieved the golden spear from his space ring, a glimmer of surprise emerged in the elf's eyes. He didn't expect Michael to possess an immortal killing weapon. But the elf did not back off. Instead, he raised the spear as the bolts of lightning dancing around his trident formed an electric shield around his body. Michael and the elf dashed toward each other with their own immortal killing weapons in their hands. It frustrated the elf. As pouring fuel into a burning fire, Michael's nonchalant tone and words made him even more furious. Michael cracked his neck and knuckles. For some reason, the elf felt a strange fear in his heart. He looked closer at Ghost. To his surprise, his eyes completely turned pitch black. Suddenly, he felt a force restricting him, as though an invisible hand had grabbed him. The elf noticed the sky around him growing darker and darker. The elf tried to shake the invisible force away. But before he could even move an inch, Michael appeared before him. He punched through the electric shield around the elf. The shield flickered, forming several cracks. The elf felt a sharp pain in his gut. He looked down to see Ghost's fist on his chest. In a blink of an eye, his fancy robes caught flames. But the flames didn't burn in red. Instead, they were burned by black flames. Arg, the elf growled in pain. Every fiber in his body ached. Blood trickled down from the corners of his mouth. Michael didn't give the elf any time to retaliate. Instead, he slowly pushed the spear through the hole in the shield he created using the dark flames. "I told you," Michael looked the elf in the eyes. "You have no idea what I am," Michael whispered, pushing the spear slowly into the elf's chest. He looked closer at the lights and found that they'd been using diamonds to light the place. "Fucking bastards," Michael cursed the Thusians as he made his way deep into the mine. Along the way, Michael met a couple of patrol groups which he slaughtered without breaking a sweat. The deeper he went, the brighter the place became. Usually, uncut diamonds wouldn't sparkle. However, the diamonds in the mine shined brighter than any normal diamond. Even without any light source, they radiated a bright light from within. Michael bent down and picked a rough-shaped diamond. It was surprisingly heavy. He could feel a tinge of strange energy coming from the stone. If he was right, this energy was cosmic energy. Typical cultivators had no chance of feeling the energy, but thanks to the system and his god's blood, he was able to do so. Azazel. Michael contacted Azazel through the earpiece. In a blink of an eye, Azazel appeared before Michael. "Clean the place out. I don't want any diamond lying around after you're done," ordered Michael. "As you wish, my lord." Leaving Azazel alone in the mine, Michael left the mine through the way he came in. To Michael's surprise, when he stepped out of the mine, he saw Xianxia waiting for him at the mine entrance. Unlike before, she was in her battle armor. He was covered from neck to toe with shiny red armor. Countless tiny snakes were engraved within the armor. Her red hair fluted in the wind. Behind her, elven soldiers armed to the teeth waited for Michael. They all had the symbol of the Guardian Guild engraved on their chests. Michael turned his back on Xianxia. He raised his hand as a bolt of lightning shot through the mine entrance. Immediately the cave collapsed. Huge boulders crumbled down, blocking the entrance. Michael slowly turned around. "You're coming with us, Ghost," said Xianxia. "And why would I do that?" Michael innocently tilted his head. "You harbored a wanted criminal," Xianxia surprised Michael. He thought Xianxia was here to arrest him because he killed the elf. Without waiting for Ghost to respond, Xianxia threw a scroll toward Michael. He caught the scroll and opened it to see the face of Gaia drawn on the scroll. It was her real face. "We have proof Elia is Gaia Ashton, the former princess of Nagaland. She is wanted for several crimes. By harboring her, you have broken the law." Michael was surprised. He couldn't help wondering how Xianxia managed to figure out Gaia's real identity. However, he wasn't planning to surrender as Xianxia suggested to him. "Are you hit in the head, Xianxia?" asked Michael. "I just killed a half-immortal. What makes you think you can take me down with a group of soul-refining stage warriors? And you, I can end you in a blink of an eye," Michael snickered. Lightning bolts began to appear around Michael's hands. They crackled and buzzed like a hive of bees. "We don't want to fight you. Come with us and tell us where to find Gaia. If you help us find her, I will help you reduce your sentence for killing a half-immortal from the guild." The only thing that stopped Michael from ending Xianxia's life then and there was his promise to Gaia. For some reason, Gaia did not want him to kill Xianxia. You have 5 seconds to get out of my way, said Michael. He controlled the wind around him. The soldiers saw the wind swirl around him violently. The force of the wind pushed them back except Zanali. Time's up, said Michael, raising his hand. A powerful gust of wind shot out of Michael's hand. A crimson-red barrier appeared before Zanali, saving her from getting blasted away. But the soldiers weren't fortunate. They were sent flying like dolls. The barrier before Zanali cracked. Michael just stomped the ground as the shock wave shattered the barrier. Zanali was taken aback by surprise when he dashed toward her. She reached for her sword, but before she could do that, he lifted her up by her neck. Guardian Captain! The soldiers behind her finally regained their balance. They shouted as they rushed to save her. Do they know you're a Naga? Michael snarled. A glimmer of surprise and shock emerged in Zanali's eyes. If you piss me off more than you've already, you won't have a kingdom to be a princess. Michael squeezed Zanali's neck as her face turned purplish. He could see golden scales flicker on her skin. Michael really wanted to snap her neck and end the feud between Gaia and her once and for all. However, this wasn't his kill but Gaia's. That was the only reason why Michael chose to let her go. He tossed her to the side before shooting toward the sky. At that moment, the army stationed at the Diamond Valley reached the mountain. They prioritized saving the mine over the people. Seeing the army in one place, Michael stopped flying away. Instead, he turned around and descended down. Get out of here! Zanali shouted, sensing the energy around Ghost skyrocket. The army cast countless spells at the same time. They all attacked Michael simultaneously. But Michael didn't even flinch. The responsive shield appeared around him, blocking all the energy arrows, fireballs, icy spikes, ethereal beasts, and swords. Michael was about to cast the ultimate ignitia to bring down the wrath of hundreds of lightning bolts upon the army when he saw a meteor soaring from the sky toward him. The meteor burnt with such intensity that it made Michael's clothes smoke. His focus turned from the army to the meteor. Michael clenched his fist, covering it with the dark flames, and shot toward the meteor. The meteor cast a humongous shadow on the ground. The place darkened. Compared to the size of the meteor, Michael looked tiny. Despite the size, Michael punched the meteor with all of his strength. The meteor exploded, sending a powerful shock wave that decimated the army on the ground. Their collision sounded like an atomic bomb had gone off. Many lost their hearing due to the thunderous explosion.